Merchants Chamber. The chamber is the voice of over 200,000 corporates with a combined strength of more than 4,500 members and 220 trade and educational institutions. Identified as a chamber with a global presence, IMC is on the board of the World Chambers Federation and has signed MOUs with the United Nations and more than 150 other chambers of commerce across various countries and government agencies. With the numbers still growing, the IMC has gained the strength to be the undisputed voice of Indian industry.
We are very proud of the fact we therefore represent the cream of the cream industry in this country. On the one hand, we help our members. On the other, we submit recommendations to the government so that they can institute policies which can ease and accelerate the business in India. Our activities include running seminars, holding exhibitions, we host inbound delegations, we take outbound delegations, and we facilitate international trade, which we believe is crucial to India's development.
IMC has spanned over 11 decades. To understand the spirit of IMC, one must go back in time.
Indian Merchants Chamber started in 1907 under the leadership of the visionary Manmohan Das Ramji, the eminent Indian businessman.
The economic policies of the then alien government in India were dictated by associations which had no other interests but to look after the welfare of the colonizers and traders. And it was such associations, uncaring and unfair economic policies that made Indian traders and merchants realize the need to form their own chamber, Indian Merchants Chamber.
These gentlemen of great experience, great patriotism, lent their support, their advice and their knowledge to government in formulating policies.
I want to compliment the IMC on its proactive liaison and advocacy efforts with ministers, senior bureaucrats and civil society. Its repository of accumulated knowledge, its long experience and the cohesion amongst its institutional and corporate members enable the IMC to work very closely with the Indian government on policy matters essential for development and growth.
This was the only chamber whose honorary membership Mahatma Gandhi accepted. Starting with only 23 members, the IMC's membership grew over the years, with many prominent icons of industry as members, as well as parliamentarians and those who later became cabinet ministers. From Dr. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan to Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, and from Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru to Shri Narendra Modi, IMC has the rare honor of visits by almost all the presidents and prime ministers of India. Inaugurated by Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel in 1939, this prestigious IMC building stands in the heart of South Mumbai. In 1967, as a memorial for the late Mr. F.E. Dinshaw, a well-equipped commercial and financial library was built. The then Honorable Chief Justice of the Mumbai High Court, Mr. Mohit Shah, inaugurated IMC's International ADR Center.
Cases are pending for years and years. IMC has taken a lead and set up an international ADR center which will cover all alternate dispute resolutions, including reconciliation and mediation.
The IMC Provincial Ravi Gandhi Chair in Banking and Finance was instituted to perpetuate the memories of late Sri Provincial Gandhi, who was a trustee as well as a past president of IMC. The chair serves dual purposes: promote our own national university of eminence, that is the Mumbai University, and secondly, fulfill the long-felt need as there was no chair for banking and finance in the University of Mumbai.
IMC also has a strong ladies' wing, promoting professional excellence of women entrepreneurs.
In these past years, we have achieved a lot. We have empowered a lot of women from the urban sector. For Impact, which we hold on Women's Day, we found that the woman artisan in the rural area is to be celebrated. So we synergized with the urban woman and the rural woman and brought each other into focus.
IMC initiates a number of conferences on topical national interests in various sectors like infrastructure, banking, financial services, aviation, urban development, railways, and many more. IMC also hosts a number of foreign and Indian dignitaries.
IMC approached me to help them get involved in actually creating a startup committee. Our agenda, therefore, was defined as thought leadership, advocacy, and partnerships, and extremely excited to participate with several youngsters from across the state, and we spoke about building companies and entrepreneurship.
A variety of awards have been initiated by IMC to encourage innovation, quality, and development in various fields.
IMC is very proud to have the Ramkrishna Bajaj National Quality Award and the Juran Quality Medal. This we started over 20 years back to get Indian corporates to assist them to be able to focus on quality and compete in the world. I must also mention the IMC Juran Quality Medal, and that is given to an individual. The Ramkrishna Bajaj National Quality Award is for corporates, the most prestigious quality award in the country.
IMC encourages innovation, recognizing outstanding services and accomplishments of organizations and individuals with the Inclusive Innovation Awards.
And there was a reason to create these awards, Inclusive Innovation Awards. See, India needs growth, but it has to be inclusive growth. And for that, you require inclusive innovation, because it is only innovation-led growth that can take India up there.
In terms of social responsibilities, IMC has been active through a number of forums. As India races towards a bright future, the IMC is accentuating its progress with its vital strength and leadership by aligning its aims with those of the governments, ensuring India's transformation to a fully developed economy.
IMC will do everything in its power, and so will its members, to achieve this objective, to put India on that pinnacle which India deserves to be.
Our collective ambition must be to take India, Indian enterprises, and the Indian economy to the top of the global ladder. Let us build a grand coalition of all Indians under the auspices of IMC for building a new India today. IMC will have a big role to play in building and nurturing this partnership.
आप जिस संस्था का हिस्सा है, उसका बहुत ही गौरवशाली इतिहास रहा है। स्वदेशी आंदोलन की पृष्ठभूमि में इसकी स्थापना हुई है, कुछ न कुछ योगदान दिया है, और इसके लिए आपकी संस्था प्रशंसा के पात्र है। आईएमसी मैं आपका बहुत बहुत आभारी हूं। धन्यवाद।
I'm a good dog, I'm a good dog, I'm a good dog. Yes, I'm a good dog, I'm a good dog, I'm a good dog. I don't wanna hear all of your worries about the cat. I'm pretty sure that he always used to look like that. Just because the hors d'oeuvres have disappeared and I'm a little fat doesn't mean I do it. good dog. I'm a real,
Good dogs can make bad decisions. Protect them with FG Dog Health Cover, a comprehensive health insurance plan that covers surgery and hospitalization, emergency pet minding, vet visits, and more.
Welcome you all to an online Mega Youth Conclave 2022 with the theme Ideating India at 100 Voice of Youth. Well, my name is Bhavna Bhatia and it is indeed my honor to host these two incredible days of the forum. Yesterday was rather a very insightful day with the leaders and students joining and sharing their knowledge, thoughts and vision infused with passion on the screen. Day 2 is going to be structured around 3 different themes: Digital at 100 Inclusive Growth, Green Initiatives, Climate Smart India, and Envisioning India's Future, a Global Perspective. Well, we are honored to be graced and supported by renowned and inspiring leaders of our country, and we look forward to a great day 2 with all of you. Remember, our hashtag for the event is hashtag IMC Youth Conclave 2022 as one word. I'd like to repeat the hashtag. It is hashtag IMC Youth Conclave 2022 as one word. So let's get the tweets out, let's get this hashtag trending, and let's share our knowledge today. I would also like to thank Maharashtra State Innovation Society for supporting the event, and we wish to express our profound thanks for our gold sponsor, Future Generali India Insurance Company Limited, and our associate sponsors, Epident Packaging Private Limited, OC Specialties Private Limited, and Bhavya Container and Estate Company. We would also request you all to visit the Resource Center if you'd like to access the agenda or look at the profiles of the speaker, sponsorship support, IMC journal, IMC membership, YLF membership, commercial examination, venue, and any other information. Or all you can do is go to the lobbies and click on May I Help You section. With this, ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed my honor to now call upon Mr. Ajit Mangalurkar, the Director General of IMC, to give in the opening remarks. Over to you, Ajit, to take it forward.
Thank you, Bhavna, and a very good afternoon and a warm welcome to all distinguished guests, delegates, esteemed speakers, and students from India and countries across the world. The Indian youth are dynamic, passionate, ambitious, and focused, all of which are incremental to their success. They possess zeal, enthusiasm, and a positive attitude. And when combined with creativity, success results. Youth play a pivotal role in building our nation, and with creativity and with all that they have with them, it's a positive impact that they bring to the world. Demographic dividend is a great opportunity to leverage this demographic advantage. Realizing this dividend calls for long-term visionary approach to not only design policies and programs to draw the best out of the youth, but also adequate investments, financial, technological, and other, to build long-term capability and resilience amongst the youth. On behalf of IMC Chamber of Commerce and Industries Young Leaders Forum, I present my compliments and extend my grateful thanks to Dr. Rajendra Kumar ji for the honor of joining us at this conclave and specially addressing us all. Dr. Rajendra Kumar, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Electronics and IT. In his current capacity, he is leading the policy formulation and implementation of various schemes under the Digital India, e-governance, data protection, cyber laws, and cyber security domains in the country. Dr. Kumar has received numerous academic and professional awards at national and international levels during his career. Sir, your words of wisdom will help and guide our youth, which are the path setters to. We all look forward to your words of wisdom.
Thank you, and very good afternoon to everyone, all the distinguished invitees, all the panelists, all the participants. It's my pleasure to present here in this event virtually. When we talk about Digital India at 100, with focus on inclusive growth, I think we need to think about a number of aspects which are very important when we talk about the future of how this very impactful program can take us in the next 25 years. So if you see the last 7 to 8 years of the achievements under this program, they have been very impressive by any count. This was launched in 2015. And since then, if we really see the impact of the programs under this broad framework of Digital India, they have had very positive impacts on almost all the domains in the government, almost all the domains in our economy, and on people in general. So whether we talk about the growth of internet users itself, now we have over 800 million people who are now internet users, compared to just about 1/3 of this number way back in 2014. That shows the impact that the initiatives in the digital domain can have on governance, on economy, and society. But even though the growth has been very impressive and the programs have been very impactful, at this stage, when we talk about the next 25 years of Digital India, we need to think about how we can include the last 40% of our population, how we can bring them into the digital domain, how we can bring them into the online world. So that's a major challenge that is there before us. And we need to think about how inclusive this program can be in the next 25 years. If we see the other factors which have enabled this huge growth in the digital interventions and in the impacts these programs have had, some of them are very important, which I would like to mention here. If we see the growth of our banking sector, now almost everyone has a bank account. Now almost everyone in our country also has a mobile phone, and almost 60% of them are smartphones which can access the internet. If we see the connectivity, it has spread to almost all parts of the country, including most of our rural hinterland. So now we have access to connectivity for almost everyone. Everyone has access to a smartphone, almost everyone has access to a smartphone, and everyone has a bank account. And as I mentioned, about 65% of the population is also on the internet. So the confluence of these factors, along with the massive push that the government has made in spreading digital literacy and the services which have now become online, they have enabled a huge transformation in our economy, in our governance, as a result of these digital interventions. So as we look towards the future, there are some key aspects that we see as the driving factors for the digital technologies and the digital interventions that I would like to briefly mention here. So as we move ahead towards the coming years in our country, and as we think about how this program can really cause even more positive impacts, we need to ensure that everyone in India has access to quality connectivity with high-speed broadband access. So that's a key factor that we need to keep in mind. And in this endeavor, if you really see the recent initiatives like BharatNet is now expanding to almost all the villages. We will soon have 5G coming in a big way in the country. So these new initiatives by the government are going to ensure that everyone, including those in villages, they will have access to quality connectivity. So this is the first factor that we need to keep in mind when we talk about how Digital India is going to cause impact on our life, society, governance in the next 25 years. The second major component of this vision as we move towards how this program will cause its maximum impact in the coming years is to focus on the digital government and the services that government departments, both at central and state level, provide to these citizens. The approach so far has been that government departments would design an application, online application, to provide a particular service. This approach has mostly led to applications running in silos, running within specific domains, and fulfilling specific requirements that citizens have. This approach is fine. This has led to very large scale digitization. And also, almost all these services now have moved online. But going forward, we need to think about how we can convert these applications into domain level platforms so that all the applications can be integrated at the back end, and at the front end, these services can be joined up, services can be integrated. So that's another area where we need to really think about how this transformation can happen as we look towards the future years. Already, this attempt is being made in a number of domains, which METI, the Electronics and IT Ministry, is leading. We are working with Health Ministry, with Education Ministry, with the Agriculture Ministry, to really ensure that we can build these large digital platforms which can serve the needs of the government departments to provide an automated online interface to citizens in the coming years. The third major area where we think Digital India will have maximum impact is in the domain of electronics and semiconductor manufacturing. This is a very important area where in the recent years, a lot of efforts have been made by central government in promoting electronics manufacturing. And as a result, today with pride, we can say that India has really become one of the key destinations for electronics manufacturing. In mobile devices, we are now the world's second largest manufacturer in terms of volume. And recent announcements have been made for promotion of semiconductor manufacturing in India, which will hopefully make us one of the global leaders in this entire domain in the coming years. This will also help us in achieving our goal of $1 trillion digital economy in the coming years, in the next 4 to 5 years. The fourth area where we need to focus as we look towards the future for the Digital India program is in the domain of emerging technologies. This is an extremely important domain because as these technologies are being driven by software, and India has global leadership in this domain. So this is very important for us to really ensure that we not only maintain our global leadership, but we enhance our capacities, our capabilities, and move towards global leadership in these emerging areas as well in the next few years. This is another area where METI is making very concerted efforts to promote skilling, to promote development of new technologies, to promote applications in domains like AI, in blockchain, in IoT, in 5G, in Industry 4.0. We are working with all our top level academic and R&D institutions, with all the departments in Government of India, with all the states, with the industry. We really want to see that our entrepreneurs, our startups, they take up this opportunity and become global leaders in these domains. We have set up over 25 centers of excellence, which are all METI supported across the entire country. These have been established with the support of the industry partners and with the state governments, with our academic institutions, to really conduct advanced R&D and develop applications in these areas. The fifth major component of this vision, as we look towards the future, is to focus on cybersecurity and in ensuring that our IT laws, our digital laws are modernized. Our current legal framework in digital domain is more than 20 years old, and we are now making efforts to ensure that we can bring in the necessary changes in our legal framework to deal with the rapidly emerging digital domain in the country. We also have focused on cybersecurity, and due to the efforts made by the government to really bolster the entire cybersecurity framework and our capabilities to really become proactive in meeting the cybersecurity threats. We are now ranked number 10 in the world in the Global Cybersecurity Index out of 190 nations by the UN. This is a major achievement which we would like to build upon in the coming years to ensure that we can remain ahead of the curve in meeting the emerging cybersecurity situations. The last domain which I would like to mention, which is very important from the point of view of Digital India program as we look towards the future, is to focus on making India the skill capital of the world. As we are all aware, India is already the global capital for high skilled resources. We wish to maintain this leadership and enhance it further. And for this, it's very important that we encourage our youth to really take up the challenging domains as their career and motivate them to become global leaders in terms of really developing and deploying new solutions which can meet the emerging challenges that our economy, our society, our government faces. So these areas are the major components on which we need to build the future of Digital India at 100 as we look towards the future. Already in some areas, we have become global leaders with the concerted efforts by MeitY and by other government departments. We have built several cross-cutting platforms which have almost no parallel in the world anywhere, of which we can really be proud of. For example, our Aadhaar platform, that is the digital identity platform, the platform for digital payments, platform for vaccinations, that is COVID, the government e-marketplace, the GST networks. These are very large cross-cutting platforms which have been built in the last few years, which have almost no parallels anywhere else in the world. And the entire world looks towards India now to really learn as to how we have built such large, very successful population scale platforms, which are providing services in real time and making the job of government departments and the private sector so much easier in really conducting their business, and also encouraging startups to think of very innovative and new solutions in these domains. Today, we see our startup ecosystem has already more than 100 unicorns, out of which over 60 have come in the last 1.5 years. This year, in fact, we already have 18 unicorns in the first 6 months. And we hope to build on this momentum of creating a very innovative ecosystem for startups and entrepreneurs in India. So if we focus on these areas I mentioned, these components, I'm sure we can look forward to a very positive future for India, for our economy, for our government, for our people, which will be based on innovation with technology as the foundation for our economic activities and our future growth. So I would like to convey my best wishes for this event and for the further deliberations that lie ahead. And I would like to convey my thanks again for inviting me to this event. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. What an insightful address this has been. Dr. Rajendra Kumar, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India. What great thoughts put in, and it puts the right perspective in the young minds of India today. And with this vision ahead, I'm sure we'll be successful. So once again, a big, big thank you. And it's an honor to have Dr. Rajendra Kumar joining us. Well, ladies and gentlemen, before we go ahead, it is time for us to move ahead to our next session. Now, the session for Digital India at 100, Inclusive Growth. Well, for this, we're going to be joined by our moderator. First up, Mr. Atit Sanghvi, founding partner, Purple Ventures Management Consultants, LLP. Atit founded Purple Ventures in 2009 to provide 360-degree services across business life cycles with a core focus on startups and emerging businesses. Atit has a bachelor's and master's in commerce and economics and another master's in business administration from the Mumbai University. He also graduated from the prestigious Wharton Business School's executive program on investment banking. As a part of his personal social responsibility, Atit is also a mentor at Dastra, which is one of India's leading strategic philanthropy foundations. Atit is also a part of the board of directors and listed and non-listed companies in India as well as internationally. Thank you so much, Atit, for joining us today.
Thank you.
And with this, ladies and gentlemen, we move ahead and call our panelists. We're elated to be joined by Ms. Priya Prakash, founder and CEO, HealthSetGo. Ms. Priya is a healthcare entrepreneur and the founder and CEO of HealthSetGo, with a vision to ensure every child in India grows up healthy. Under her leadership, the organization has become India's leading healthcare organization for schools, impacting 250,000 plus students across 77 plus cities. She's also been recognized by Forbes 30 Under 30 Asia and India in healthcare, and has also been the recipient of the Global Citizen Pride Cartier Women's Initiative Award and Unilever Young Entrepreneur Award. She's the founding curator of the Global Shapers Gurgaon Hub of the World Economic Forum. Additionally, she is a state-level Olympic weightlifting champion in India, thought leader in health, and also has been featured in various national and international publications for her work. Thank you so much, Priya, for joining us today.
Thank you.
With this, let's give them a huge, huge round of applause. I know it's a virtual platform, but our applause will, of course, encourage them. And with this, I'd heartily like to invite Atit to take forth the discussion with Priya ahead. Over to you both.
Thanks, Bhavna. Hi, Priya. So I don't want to take too much time. Just quickly straight with the questions. Priya, you're leading India's largest health organization for school and colleges, and you're entirely bootstrapped, right? You've not raised any funds. Today, HealthSetGo currently operates in schools of over 77 cities, impacting more than 5 lakh students and parents. And knowing you as a friend, I know how amazing your story has been, inspiring not just me, but my friends also in our circle. Do you really want to just quickly go through your story, how you started HealthSetGo?
Sure. First of all, thank you so much for having me, Atit, and the conclave of IMC. I'm really happy to be here. And that question that you just asked, how I started, of course, that's a story that's very personal to me. That's very close to my heart. The reason today I run a healthcare company is because when I was younger, I struggled with my own health. And as I was growing up in school, I remember a lot of children would bully me, and that's because at that time I was actually quite overweight, and I really struggled with my body weight right from a young age. Being in India, I think growing up in families where food is the main thing, that's the kind of upbringing I had. And when you're young, of course it doesn't affect you, right? If you're putting on weight, there's no issue. But then as you're growing older, you start thinking about things like how you look, and then other people are there, other students who try to bully you and put you down. So that took a huge toll on my self-esteem growing up. And I think any young girl, today, especially with social media, when I was growing up, it wasn't so much. But I think today there's so much pressure on how you look and the way people perceive you. And that was the central struggle that I had while I was growing up. And so when I went to college, I was still struggling with myself. I was struggling with of course, my weight, but it also takes a huge toll on your confidence, on your self-esteem. And it almost seemed like there was no way for me to get out of it. And when I asked my parents what to do, I think there was not too much guidance there. When I asked my school or university, honestly, there was nobody to guide me on my own health. And that's when I decided that maybe I have to fight this battle alone. And I took this initiative of trying to change my own health. And anyone who's tried to change their health, you'll know it's extremely difficult. Even if you try to change one habit, it's difficult, but trying to change everything, it took me more than 6 years to actually change myself. I was lucky enough to find the sport of weightlifting. And I'm proud to say that I actually won in the Delhi State Weightlifting Championships as well. So when I actually went through that journey, from being somebody who was quite overweight, not into sports at all, used to feel very conscious of herself, all the way to somebody who was finally confident because of health and fitness, I realized that health is my passion. And I would like to see every child in India grow up with the knowledge of how to take care of themselves, with the knowledge of health education. And this is what got me started with HealthSetGo. I started my journey with a few schools, and now today we are in so many schools across the country. We're impacting lakhs of students. And, this is a very small amount. We actually would like to get to 1 million students in the next couple of years. And I'm really happy that health is finally becoming something that's a center point for education.
Thank you. So we also have Akshay now. Hey, Akshay. So again,
hey,
I'm
good to meet you after a couple of years.
Yes, absolutely.
And
so Akshay, let's just go quickly on the question. So Akshay, you're leading the largest personalized student counseling study abroad platform in the world now. and it's a scaling business, not just in India, but globally, right? And this couldn't be possible without the help of the right mentors. So how do you really go about finding the right mentors and knowing that what strategy to implement, which mentor to listen?
Atit, first of all, great to be here. Sorry for the slight delay. I think I'm more immersed into the youth piece of this conference or this talk right now, because I just saw a very young guy working with a delivery company speeding up and was hit by a bus. Thankfully, a couple of us were there to kind of help him out and get him medical help. So I think now in the immediate, I've just kind of come from there, and I feel that there are so many important problems that need to be solved for the young of this country at large. But just very specifically with respect to your question, I think I was very fortunate, I think, to be finding the right people across my own personal journey. And I think at different stages of building a company, you have different things that essentially would come your way and essentially make your journey super helpful. I remember, Atit, in fact, we met when I was first trying to raise our first 2 crore rupees in Bombay. I have very fond memories of that catch up right in front of Marine Drive. And I think, for example, at that point of time, we were trying to figure out how to just kind of get people to come and work with you. To now we essentially think about how to kind of get more attractive unit economics, how to increase gross margin. And I think the first step is accepting what is a problem, what do you essentially define as a problem at the stage of business that you are at. And then I think supposedly kind of trying to find mentors very actively who can help you at that scale. Today, I try to spend a lot of time with the unicorn founders. I've tried to essentially have more than half a dozen of them to put personal few crore checks in the company and say that, hey, just have your skin invested in the company and guide me in terms of how we, as and when we essentially scale from 1,000 people to 3,000 to 4,000 people over the end of this year. And so I think just to kind of put it into some form of structure, I think the first step is realization and understanding that at different stages of life, different stages of the company, you would need different kinds of problems that need to be attracted, that need to essentially be attractive enough for these mentors to solve for and be a part of your journey. And then essentially actively going out, solving for those problems together with these mentors, and see also ensuring that as they share their wisdom, as they share their best practices, you ensure that you essentially put those experiments in action and keep them posted, tell them what things are working, what things are not working, which also gives them a great feedback loop and makes it more helpful for them to also kind of guide more people as they move about their mentor lives as well.
Perfect. So I have a question now for both of you. Both of you are empowering and working with so many various stakeholders like, the government, school, parents, doctors, financial institutions. And they are, they're really tough. They're no small tasks, especially when it comes to the bureaucracy challenges. How do you really overcome those challenges? Priya, do you want to start?
Sure. So I'll put two angles to this. When I started, and I started in a field of education and healthcare, which are basically traditional fields, and I was very young. I think I was 24 at the time when I came up with this idea and wanted to start. And so I had this big fear in me that nobody is going to take me seriously. Because these are, very bureaucratic systems. And I'm so young, I look very young. How am I going to walk into a meeting and actually sell something to these people who are essentially 45, 50 years old? What will actually make them believe me? And similar issue I had when I actually wanted to work with the government. I said, this is a very sort of male dominated system. There are people who are way, way older than me, etc. How am I going to go there? How will they believe me? And one thing I've realized is, I would always walk into a room and just think that I'll see it in someone's eyes that they're not taking me seriously, or I'll see it in someone's eyes that they're looking down on me or being condescending towards me because I'm young and not too much experience, etc. But what I've realized is that today, the outlook of people having young individuals walk into a room, talk about what they're doing, and by that vision of young people, I think that has really increased. I have not faced any such situation, or maybe maybe I'm talking from a side which is lucky. I have not faced such a situation, because I know some people have, but I have seen the attitude change. I think it's an advantage if you're young, if you're entrepreneurial and you're going into a room full of these people and you're talking about what you believe in, people do buy into that now more than ever. I think the whole phase where everyone's seeing young people running massive companies, they've come to this realization that, okay, maybe there's something for us as an older generation to learn from these people, and maybe the kind of energy that they bring to the table and the kind of passion and enthusiasm and optimism that they bring to the table, maybe we can really work together with that. So I think there's been a lot of intergenerational acceptance here. I've seen that while working with the government. I was really surprised that even the most bureaucratic systems were able to respect what I was saying, not once question the fact that I was the only woman standing in the room or I was so young. You know, and it also like one thing on the other side I would say is that it also really matters how much you believe in yourself when you do that, because a lot of times we build these up in our head, you know, oh, it's so difficult, how do we crack this, you know, all of that. But I think a lot of the times your confidence will get you through what comes out of your mouth, and in the content of what you're saying, the substance of what you're bringing to the table, that is what is going to get you through. And I have relied on that, and I genuinely believe the world is changing and people are looking at young people coming up, giving them the opportunities now more than ever.
Fantastic. Akshay.
Prateek, very quick take. Number one, I don't think I'm best positioned to comment or essentially say much on this. I'm still struggling with this. I was yesterday at the RBI. We're trying to get a license to do foreign exchange on our own books, and I had this interaction with a senior lady, and I was trying to essentially tell her that, you know what, I'm a kid. We're all kids. Why don't you kind of just help us? And she immediately came back with कि नहीं मुझे पागल मत बनाओ, तुम कोई बच्चे नहीं हो, तुम लोगों को सब पता है. So I definitely agree with Priya that people do take young people seriously now, of course. I in fact think they take us more seriously than they should.
We can't play the young people card anymore, basically.
You can't play that card anymore. I realized that last afternoon. But I think just to add to that, I think we have been able to solve a lot of these problems using the right talent. And just to kind of link it to the previous question as well, having the right mentors, having the right advisors around you, I think that definitely helps to break a lot of ice and be able to cut through some of these chambers that have existed from times immemorial. I think that is something which has been very helpful to us in our journey as we negotiated with a lot of bureaucracy, as we kind of negotiated with existing systems that we thought were very tough to break into. But yeah, like I said, we're very early in our journey to be essentially commenting on this. I myself have to kind of figure it out, and I would love to essentially learn from others' experiences on how to crack this.
Fantastic. So again, Akshay, don't go away. So, you know, you've raised almost 230 crores plus and been valued at around 1,000 crores in your last round, if I'm not mistaken, and have made the most of the digitization, you know, to cater to students from smaller towns especially. Was it a challenging experience or working and finding the right target audience in smaller towns? And, you know, how did you get, you know, the right technology, use the right technology and enable it to achieve your vision there?
Sure. So I think I'll keep it short. The idea was to ensure that we attack the problem from a different, from a very different perspective. In our space, we had seen that people will essentially transact first and then talk about knowledge dissemination. We essentially went the other way out. We realized that as a technology company, we did not have to open 500 centers to give out knowledge. We did not have to invest in assets and put in crores of hundreds of crores of capital to essentially just kind of to go out and distribute knowledge. We realized that we could do it being a digital company. And hence we essentially built it out in a different way. We went out, we began with kind of creating a simple blog. We went out and created an app. Today, our app has a community of about 7.5 million people who kind of come to it. We're the largest study abroad community in the world who essentially come on the app every single month. We have the largest organic traffic in the category at about 110 million now. So we realized that when you give out information for free, there were people who essentially wanted to kind of take it in, absorb it in digitally, and be essentially able to kind of make good use out of it. And I have seen that a lot of things that we essentially did on top of it, be it mini products to essentially help them figure out what course quality is right for them, be it building a tool for them during the pandemic to directly have university access built out. They can directly speak to a university, apply with a simple click and things like that. So we realized that just having that DNA to help people and give them the right knowledge and put them on the starting line was essentially the beginning of it. And you essentially get more direction from the customer, in fact, on how you want to kind of go about and build things on top of that. Just on the last bit, from a market perspective, in fact, again, like I said, I'll give a very startup-y answer. We used to think that we have it figured out. We, in fact, our last intake, we had people from 834 different cities and towns who used our service and went to a university of their choice. But when we essentially dissected the data after the intake, we realized that more than 50% of it is still to the top 11 cities. And a conversion rate, when we essentially went to, the deeper we went into this country, the more terrible, I would rather use very blunt, honest words, more terrible were conversion rates. And we essentially hence realized that there's a lot more to be done. People in Gurdaspur, Moga, Kapurthala, or in Ernakulam or Vijayawada still believe in offline, still essentially would like to see the face of somebody who's helping them with education, higher education more specifically, which is a much higher transaction for them in their life. And so again, there's a lot of work to do. And I think there's a lot of, as we essentially, I'll just close it by saying that the benefit of building a technology company and essentially building a company rather centered around data is that there are much quicker feedback loops which help you learn more quickly, which help you adapt more quickly, which help you build more solutions in a far stronger, far fiercer way than what would have been possible 10 years back. And hence, I think we're just kind of very, very fortunate to be building a company in 2022.
Fantastic. So Priya, you work with so many young children across India and, come with a lot of challenges, especially when it comes to children. There are too many challenges and risks, right? Your parents, the age group, etc. So how have you leveraged technology and systems to mitigate those risks?
Yes, I think, like Akshay was saying, I think technology, as a way to reach out to a lot of people is, the way to go now. And when I started HealthSet Go, so healthcare is actually something which is not as automated as we think it is. So if you go to your doctor, they'll still give you a written prescription and they'll still take out their notepad and do all of that and give you your health records. And even when you go to a hospital, even a really renowned hospital, they'll do the exact same thing. They'll make a file for you and, give it to you. Now, if all of us think back to our childhood about our vaccination records, each time we went to the doctor, I think most of us, that period between when we were born to the time we were 18 is like a black hole of medical information, because those records don't exist. If I ask you where are your health records today, a lot of people do not have their health records. Even till now, even all of us, maybe we don't have our health records in one place. So when I started HealthSet Go, one thing we realized is that children today, maybe we can't fix it going forward, but children today can start by having a digital record assigned to them. And the whole Digital India movement that's happening right now, there is a push to convert everything digitally, align everything with your, sort of social security number of sorts in India. We're building a health ID as well, which is the main thing. So what we said is, let's start with that. Let's have all the medical records of every child, starting from the time they enter school. So all your vaccinations, from 0 to 5, you have to have vaccinations. So all of that, we created a platform where parents could easily put that online. Every time we came to their school and we did a health checkup of the students, or they visited one of our doctors, we made those health records online as well. So now we have an app which a lot of parents access. In that app, all of these things are there. So you can track your child's vaccination, you can track your child's health records. And not only that, you can actually see what is the change from the last year to this year, or from the last doctor's visit to this doctor visit. And I think a lot of this, information that was previously scattered, we got it into one place and made it such that there could be actionable insights for parents, so that you can take any measure for your child's health sooner rather than later, which also feeds into a larger vision of prevention is better than cure, and that every child should be healthy from a young age. So technology has played a huge role in that. In fact, all the doctors that are impaneled with us, they don't use a pen and paper pad, for prescribing things. We have given them an application that now they enter all the medical information in. And through these systems, we also have schools who are logging in and seeing an entire dashboard of what is the health of their own school. So 20% of children have dental cavities, 50% of children, let's say, are overweight, 20% are underweight. So you get to make more decisions on, maybe we need a better nutrition program in our school. Maybe we need to have certain other workshops to counteract mental health. So technology has made it has enabled us to scale this in a big way. Now at any given point, we have more than 3 lakh medical records that we have on our platform, which parents can actually, have as a continuum throughout the, life cycle of their children. And there's been a lot of innovation in the field of healthcare, and we are continuously innovating. We are incorporating mental health as a huge aspect. I think a lot of the students will agree to this, that the pandemic has been very, very difficult. They have been all locked up inside, and with our emotions, we don't really express them, and hence we have a team of psychologists also, which we're providing online for students so that they can take care of their mental health. So I think these are the ways that we have used technology in a big way.
Fantastic. So Akshay, coming to you, I know you went to ISB, and that helped you to achieve a very clear entrepreneurship mindset, right? And come with a business idea. How did that come about, entire mindset? How did the business school also help you?
No, Atit, that's an interesting question. The entrepreneurial mindset, I'm sure, came from before ISB. I'm not sure if the business school had too much to do with that. I won't give them unnecessary credit there. But I'm sure the ISB piece, I think what any form of higher education does, and I think what an MBA from any good school does, not just ISB, anywhere else as well, is it helps you think in structures. It gives you some form of credibility so that people can kind of come and work with you. So I think ISB's biggest contribution is that when I was first raising money, I had 4 different professors and 8 different alumni come in and put in small tokens of checks, which made for whatever 35-40% of my first corpus of seed round. And it ensured that parents who were sending their young kids, 20, 21-year-old kids, and much younger kids to essentially intern and work with me, they would send their kids to work with me just because I had that ISB tag behind myself. Not for the reason, not because I was an entrepreneur, I was trying to solve for something which is very radical. The thing was कि हाँ साथ में रहेगा बच्चा तो मतलब कुछ ना कुछ तो निकल ही जाएगा, आप अपने साथ रख लो and things like that. That's how I kind of got my first 8, 10, 15 employees. So I think that's where it helped to be super honest. Beyond it, I think as we move forward, if you go to any good school, you find alumni in different roles across the larger investing community as well. So I'm able to find people today who are at multiple private equity shops. I'm able to find today people who are, say, for example, we launched a financial services business about 6 to 8 months back. So I found people who were, somebody who was working in the regulator, at the regulator as well, with Niti Aayog. And we found somebody who was essentially working with one of the large banks as well in HSBC in London. So I think it just gives you access to a very large alumni pool, which helps you move quicker, which gives you more numbers on the speed dial. To be able to kind of navigate much more quickly when you run into problems. And I think that's largely it. That said, I very using your platform, I think I would very clearly, I kind of go about and say this very often, that I don't think education is in any way a hindrance to pursue entrepreneurship. I don't think you need education to kind of go out and make any form of impact.
Absolutely right. So last question before we open to the students. Priya, it's not easy for a woman entrepreneurship and a young woman, especially like you, to be in a very leadership position. Do you ever find any discrimination from any stakeholders, and how did you really overcome those challenges?
This is a question I get very often as well. And I have mixed reviews on this, because I think, like I was saying earlier, that being young, walking into those rooms, I did feel empowered. I felt very confident in what I was saying and doing, and people responded very favorably. So that has been one of my experiences, right, with bureaucrats and what you asked before. But sometimes in my day-to-day life, I get a lot of random discrimination. You go for a meeting to partner with someone. I'm going with one of my male colleagues. They'll just look at the male colleague and talk, and things like that, which are so ingrained in our maybe culture, that they're not used to seeing. I think it's not discrimination, it's more about exposure. I think the more you highlight women in these roles, the more it's normalized that women are going to be leading conversations. I think this will go away on its own. I think some people get really awkward talking to women as the leadership person in a meeting, and these are things which are very cultural, and I'm sure that India is moving in the right direction to get over it. But at the same time, being a woman in, it's a very flux point right now being a woman, because it's being celebrated in the sense that you have women panels, you have women awards, you have women everything, and it's great. I mean, of course, I believe in equality. There should be no extra for women or extra for men. I think at some point, we should stop having this glorification of a woman on a panel. I hope it becomes normalized and everything. But until then, this is a great period for being a woman, because, all the opportunities that are out there, they make sure, I mean, anything coming up, grants, awards, funding, accelerators, anything out there, whoever's listening, who's a woman, or an aspiring entrepreneur, there are so many opportunities out there for you just because you're a woman right now. There are. And, I have to say that some of the things that I have also got, some of the opportunities that I've got is because I was a young woman. So there are, of course, there is a whole other negative side to it. And like I said, I think that's just our culture evolving, and it will go there, it will happen. But one thing that I think has negatively impacted women is they start doubting themselves, that they only can't do it. I think that's where the problem is. So, if you're there in a meeting, or if you're there in a conversation and people are not paying attention, or people are not responding to you, own that position. Maybe we might have to work harder for it, but in that conversation, don't put yourself down. Go there with confidence, and don't think that just because I'm a woman or just because I'm a young person, I can't do this. Because trust me, that change is already happening, and it's all of us every day in our every interaction with the opposite gender. We can actually create that change and create that cultural shift. So like I said, I don't want to focus on the struggles, I want to focus on the positives, because there are a lot of positives. And if you're a woman out there who's listening to this, and you are doubting that there are opportunities for you, there are. Go and find them. It's a great time to be a woman, and a young woman at that, I would say.
Perfect. Thank you. So let's open the question to the students.
So thank you so much, Atit, firstly, for moderating this so wonderfully. I'd really like to humbly thank all our esteemed panelists. Akshay, we couldn't get the opportunity to introduce you formally, but I'd just like to take a moment with you from my team. So Akshay, of course, an Indian entrepreneur, and he was listed on the Forbes India 30 under 30 list, and then subsequently on Forbes Asia's 30 under 30 list, both in early 2020. He founded Leverage Edu and is now the CEO, and has been running India's largest career guidance and university admissions platform, as our moderator rightly said. He also became a CNBC Young Turk, named after India's top business entrepreneurship show in 2019. And later that year, he also won the TiE Entrepreneurial Excellence Award. In July 2020, the streak continued. He was awarded as the Entrepreneur of the Year Consumer Business by the Entrepreneur magazine. And he, of course, also runs a non-profit foundation together with his wife. Akshay, we'd really like to humbly thank you for joining us. Unfortunately, we weren't able to introduce you formally, but thank you for that. And also, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. And also, we'd like to thank Priya. Priya, great hearing what you had to say on the forum, and a lot of virtual applause coming from our side to all our esteemed panelists. So as Atit rightly stated, it is time for us to go ahead to our youth of our country. It is time for me to call upon our students. Now, remember, time is the biggest asset. I'm going to be timing you all 2 minutes for each student. And once you see me intervening, that means your time is up. And I'm sure you'll not disappoint me. You will end before 2 minutes. First up, I'd like to call upon our first student, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Richpal Singh Rajput, Bharati Vidyapeeth Institute of Management Studies and Research, Mumbai. Richpal, your 2 minutes start now.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Good afternoon, one and all present here. Today, I'll be talking about Digital India. Digital India is a campaign that was launched by our Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi ji, on 1st July 2015. So this is actually a campaign with an aim to achieve 3 interconnected goals, which are availability of high-speed internet, and to make all government services accessible to all common man through e-governance and digital empowerment of citizens. So the campaign has actually 9 pillars attached to it. The one is broadband highways, which will ensure that urban as well as rural areas have to cover the national optical fiber network. Second is a universal access to mobile connectivity. Third, public internet access program, and e-Kranti, that is delivering of online services like online services for justice, online services for medical, online education, as well as many. Electronics manufacturing contributing towards self-dependency, that is Swadeshi. Next is IT for jobs and early harvest of programs. And the initiatives that were taken under this scheme was DigiLocker services that was operated by Government of India that enables every citizen of the country to secure the official documents and on a cloud, that is moving towards a paperless governance. Next is Beam app. Beam app was actually an payments interface that was launched by Government of India that ensures smooth flow of transactions between one person's bank to another person. And the next is Pradhan Mantri Gramin Digital Sakshata Abhiyan, that was launched to make the people of the country digitally literate, and the government has accepted 250,000 gram panchayats to register at least 200 to 300 candidates each. So there are many challenges attached to it as well. That is rolling of small, slow Wi-Fi connect, like comparing to countries like developed countries, and mostly there is an absence of enough skilled manpower in digital technology. That's it from my side. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Singh, for completing it on time. And of course, wonderful thoughts right there. Ladies and gentlemen, quickly, I'd now like to call upon Ms. Namrata Ahuja from Birla Institute of Technology and Science, Goa, joining us. Namrata, your time starts now.
A very good afternoon to Mr. Akshay Chaturvedi, Ms. Priya Prakash, all the speakers and my fellow student speakers. I am Namrata Ahuja from BITS Pilani KK Birla Goa campus, and I would like to thank the forum to give me an opportunity to express my views. To begin with, how Digital India can transform the landscape of India. Technology to transform a connected nation. By many measures, India is well on its way to become a digitally advanced country. The public sector has been a strong catalyst for India's rapid digitalization. The Aadhaar is the single largest digital ID program in the world that has enrolled 1.2 billion people since it was introduced in 2009. Speaking of what are the roadblocks in implementing Digital India and how can it be solved? Now, the Digital India program faced a number of challenges, consisting of regulatory roadblocks, idle government, digital divide, poor connectivity, lack of awareness, slow and delayed infrastructure, fear of cybercrime, and breach of privacy. The problems mentioned can be resolved by creating awareness amongst people and maximizing internet connectivity, improving skills in cybersecurity. Participation of various departments and amendments in various legislations can be of great help. So what should be the changes in digital infrastructure so that it plays a game changer for companies and thereafter our economy? Digital India is for the masses, and if it manages to fulfill these aspirations, it would be a revolution. Digital infrastructure and connectivity of a country are as important as the roads and bridges of a nation are. The government should make every effort to drive policy changes to make access to the internet and computers an essential need. Lastly, I would like to conclude by saying digital revolution is a must after the green, industrial, and white revolution. Jai Hind, thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Ahuja, for completing it well on time and proposing your thoughts ahead. Ladies and gentlemen, next up is Ms. Vidhi Gupta from Don Bosco Institute of Technology, Mumbai, joining us. Vidhi, your time starts now.
Good afternoon, everyone. I, Vidhi Gupta from Don Bosco Institute of Technology, Mumbai, feel grateful for getting this opportunity to voice my opinion at this forum. Progress is about disruption and change. Such a progress has been made by our country since the Digital India campaign was launched. It not only created a disruption in various markets, but also changed our lifestyles. A campaign to remodel India into a knowledgeable economy and a digitally empowered society. Digital India is here, pillared by improved governance, nationwide internet access, and information for all. Digitalization can help with large spectrum of sectors ranging from agriculture to banking, thus making it impactful. It could result in the creation of up to 65 million jobs by the year of 2025. But how can we talk about inclusive growth when a major part of our country is still lagging behind? The uneven adoption of digitization leads to this. With 65% rural population, one cannot ignore the socio-economic elements that lead to this non-uniformity. Lack of ICTs, low internet bandwidth, and most importantly, intermittent electricity. This divide needs to be filled by first strengthening the existing ICTs, then its expansion, and second, providing digital literacy. After some research, I came to a conclusion that the future is us, the youth of India. To maximize their development, the solution would be getting the private tech firms to join hands with the government. With their advanced research and monetary aid, the connectivity infrastructure can improve. Digital capabilities can help India play a greater role and create more leading firms in the global value chains. India can experience increased competency from a global standpoint. As I wrap up, the former CEO of TCS, Natarajan Chandrasekhar, said, "Going digital is no longer an option. It is a default." We, as future leaders, should help bridge the digital gap such that every Indian citizen can welcome Industry 4.0. Thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you so much, Vidhi, on that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for me to now move ahead to our next student. Well, Mr. Shurid Bandhaya from Indian Institute of Technology, IIT Gandhinagar, Gujarat, joining us. Well, your time, 2 minutes, starts now.
Hi, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible. Please
start. Good afternoon, everyone. It is an absolute honor to be a student speaker at Imc Youth Conclave.
I believe we are facing a network issue. Could we go ahead?
It is fine now.
Yeah,
hello, ma'am. Yeah, I'll start now. Good afternoon, everyone. It is an absolute honor to be a student speaker at Imc Youth Conclave. Let's begin with a thought. What is inclusive growth and its relevance to digital India? The implications of the two words, inclusive and growth, coming together are subtle yet immense. For me, it refers to the combined, collaborative, and continued growth of every Indian within the digital space. I am Shurid Bandhaya, a rising junior undergraduate at IIT Gandhinagar. I am a Jain, originally from Rajasthan, who grew up in a Nepali-speaking dominated hills in a state that recognizes Bengali as its primary language, in a country that has Hindi as the most spoken language and English as the de facto working language. As we make a leap towards the possibility, towards digital India, it is absolutely essential to make that leap a possibility for every commoner Indian, leaving behind the Herculean barrier of language. Yes, you may ask, why language? Why not some other barrier? Well, simply put, it is the most pivotal aspect that governs one's access and representation in the digital space. Having the proper representation and the ready access of technology to every individual beyond the barriers of division is the need of the hour. With the advancements of artificial intelligence, especially within natural language processing, I am certain that we can develop an inclusive India available in at least the 121 officially recognized languages. I have personally committed to this domain and I speak from experience. I am also certain that we can develop a truly inclusive India only if we overcome the hurdle of language as a native step.
Apologies.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, with this, it is time for us to move ahead to our next student. We've got two more students. Mr. Avinash Murli, Manipal Institute of Technology, Karnataka, joining us. Avinash, your 2 minutes start now.
Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon to all the dignitaries present here. I'm Avinash and I'm from Manipal Institute of Technology. I like to start off this speech by making an outlandish but an extraordinary assumption. Let's pretend we have a time machine and we travel back a couple of decades, meet a jolly commoner in the outskirts of Bombay, and tell him that in the next 50 years, not only will you be able to contact your grandchildren living oceans away from you within seconds, but you can also buy groceries without cash. And you can also come to know what your neighbor is planning to have for dinner in his social media apps. The chances are he will probably laugh in your face. Our grandparents grew in a society where telephones were mythical. Our parents grew in a society where radios and television were the only source of gossip. The technological innovation that have come into play in the last couple of years have elevated the status of our country to great heights. One such innovation is Digital India. The best way to explain it is in a fun mathematical problem is IT plus IT plus IT. The Indian talent plus information technology is equal to the India tomorrow. But Rome wasn't built in a day, was it? And also, this vision did not come without challenges. The two of the biggest obstacles faced during the successful implementation are literally digital illiteracy and digital divide. Although we are on the right track, to achieve these, we require administration and taxation changes, and also a shift in the public mentality. There are still close to 55,000 villages that are deprived of mobile and broadband connectivity because it's not economically feasible to establish these in such remote locations. And the problem of connectivity is also a complex issue because every state has a different rule. But every problem has a solution. And
Avinash, your time is up. Apologies.
Can you give me 20 seconds if you don't mind?
I'm so sorry, Avinash. We have to stick with the rule. Apologies on that.
Okay.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, with this, it is time for our final student, Mr. Yash Vyas, MIT World Peace University, Pune, Maharashtra, joining us. Yash, your 2 minutes start now.
First of all, I would like to thank IMC and to giving this opportunity, and pleasure to be part of this event and glad to speak on the very important topic, Digital India, when our nation is celebrating the 75th independence, years of independence and Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. And as I'm running my own cyber security startup, Hackett Security, pleasure to speak on this topic. So this initiative, Digital India, this campaign is launched by our government to promote the technological advancements of the nation. The campaign aims to ensure that every citizen of this nation has the basic availability of electronic devices like a mobile phone, and to provide high-speed internet access in all the rural areas of this nation. The Digital India campaign, as the name of this campaign suggests, one of the major motives of this campaign is to digitize India. The government of India launched this program to help every citizen of the nation by letting them easily access all the government services with the utilization of this internet. As an explicit definition, Digital India can be defined as a flagship program of the government of India with a strong vision to convert India into a digitally empowered nation and knowledge economy. The Digital India campaign was launched by our Honorable Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi ji, on the 1st July 2015, and with the motto of this campaign is Power to Empower and Digitize India. Same as our vision is protecting the cyberspace. Under this vision, the government of India is trying to provide high-speed internet to the citizen in order to smoothen the online delivery of multiple services by digitally connecting every rural area of our nation through broadband and high-speed internet, and the government can deliver all the electronic services.
Yash, your 2 minutes are over. Apologies on that. We'll have to intervene. Thank you so much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, time is the biggest asset and we have to respect everyone's time here. And I'm sure that's going to be a great learning for all of us. I'd really like to humbly once again thank Atit, Akshay, and of course, Priya for joining us from our previous panel. Thank you so much for your valuable time. With this, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for us to move ahead to our next discussion. Well, we hope you all are having a great time. It is now time for our next session, which is Green Initiatives Climate Smart India, which speaks for itself. First up, I'd like to welcome our moderator, Ms. Amrita Chaudhary, CEO, Gaia Smart Cities. Amrita being the CEO and Director of Gaia, an IoT AI enterprise SaaS company, providing operations tech solutions for smart cities. She's somebody who's an independent director on the board of Mahindra Life Spaces, Mahindra World Cities, Mahindra Homes, Nesco, to name a few. Amrita is a business strategist, engineer, and an innovator, and she brings a unique understanding of the business growth and technology, digital spaces, and branding. She started her journey in product development with Applied Materials in California and holds 7 US patents for semiconductor manufacturing. She's also an author of 2 books and has written multiple white papers and contributed to the policy documents on smart cities, design thinking, systems thinking, and future of jobs for various central and state ministries and industry bodies in India. Well, Amrita, it's indeed an honor to have you. Thank you so much for agreeing to moderate us today. Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, with this, it is time for us to call upon our esteemed panelists. First up, Mr. Angad Daryani, the founder and CEO of Pran. Angad, being an inventor and a social entrepreneur from Mumbai, he's currently the founder and CEO of Pran Inc., which builds the world's most advanced, truly filterless, large space air purification systems. He studied electrical engineering from Georgia Tech and has worked on lithium-ion battery packs, EVs, defense radar systems, rapid prototyping, alternate education, and bioengineering using AI. Thank you so much, Angad, for joining us today.
Excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. Also joining Angad would be Rushda Majid, India representative, Bernard Van Leer Foundation. Ms. Rushda, of course, is responsible for Bernard Van Leer Foundation's work in India, has led research in 11 countries from Princeton University's Innovation for Successful Societies to analyze reforms that improve government performance and accountability. Rushda has written numerous case studies on institutional reforms, and her writings on the subject have appeared in foreign policy magazines, Democracy Lab. She's somebody who's got a master's degree in international affairs from the School of International and Public Affairs at Columbia University and a bachelor's degree in computer science from the Eastern Kentucky University. Thank you so much, Ms. Rushda, for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Bhavna, for that introduction, and looking forward to this discussion.
Absolutely. So with this, Amrita, the live reign is in your hands to take forth with your panel. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Bhavna. So first of all, I'm delighted to be here to moderate this really exciting session on green initiatives, Climate Smart India. Firstly, sustainability is a very critical issue. It impacts all of us, it impacts us at individual levels, professional and national levels. And the topic itself is really vast. There's a large array of green initiatives and activities that span every aspect, from our personal consumption to how we run our corporate and industrial processes to how our cities and public infrastructure runs and operates. As an introduction, India has a very low per capita emission of carbon dioxide, especially if we compare with the US and China. Our targets are about pivoting this even further and moving into green energy in a really big way. There are many initiatives that are happening, and most of us are aware of it at different levels in terms of things that are happening in automotive, things that are happening in sustainable energy, and so on. The key mandates really are to increase the production of renewable energy, to decrease the energy inefficiency and wastage and consumption at all levels, to decrease emissions of different kinds from different sources, industrial, automotive, vehicular, and so on, and to increase the net treatment of waste and wastewater in our cities. Our cities and industries are huge constituents to this place, as are we as individuals, in ensuring that we have green infrastructure, green buildings, climate conscious transportation corridors, climate, aware city services and so on, right? So we really need to come together in many ways as business, government and citizens to address this. So I'm delighted really to have Rishta Machid and Angad Daryani today. Let me just ask, the first set of questions around the macro level, the green cities and the green spaces. So Ms. Rishta, the first question for you really is, as governments, both at the city and the national level, are looking at green initiatives of different kinds, from renewables to energy monitoring and consumption reduction and so on. What can we do to have an integrated approach at the city government to the national government level? And what do you see as some of the key tech interventions that are coming through?
Thank you so much, Amrita, for that question. And of course, before I begin, thank you to IMC, all the organizers, for this wonderful, wonderful occasion and to bring young people together. I think this is a fabulous initiative. Before I talk a little bit about the question that you've asked, Amrita, I wanted to introduce the Bernard van Leer Foundation very briefly. We are a Dutch organization. We are a Netherlands-based entity that is a funding organization slash a foundation that works on one single area, and that is early childhood. So I will come to why I'm here with the lens of early childhood, talking about climate and cities and so on. But the Bernard van Leer Foundation was established in 1949, but since 1965, which is a good 60 years, we've been working on only one topic, and that is early childhood. So we are one of the earliest funders and potentially thinkers in this space. When I talk about early childhood and why we do what we do, the reason is quite simple. Our founders actually were business people, and they had an oil packaging business from all over the world. And they basically decided, after having made a lot of money, that they wanted to endow it for the rest of the world and towards the early years. And the reason for the early years is a simple business argument, actually, which is investment. And they believed, and there is now a lot of neuroscience argument and a lot of argument in terms of economics and health and education, that investment in the earliest years can be transformational, not only for the child and their families, but also for communities and nations at large. And the Nobel laureate James Heckman actually did some work on this and has concluded that every dollar invested in the early years yields up from $7 to $13 social returns to society. So therefore, the argument is simple, but foundational really in terms of why we focus on early childhood. Of course, we come at it from different sectors. And one of the sectors we look at, apart from health and nutrition and so on, is cities. And we believe that the urban environment in cities and smarter cities are an important variable in terms of how young children can get the best start in life. And that is our mission, a good start for all children. And so coming back to your question of an integrated approach to this question of climate smart initiatives or climate smart cities, and I will change the equation a little bit to talk about this lens of people at the center of anything that we talk about, because ultimately it's all about improving the lives and livelihoods of people, and for us, young children. And if you think about things from that lens, early childhood is an interesting lens because you've put children at the heart of any thinking that you're doing about smart cities, about climate, and so on. And that is basically our lens, which is that the child is a whole, but the experience of the child will actually come from different departments, different sectors, different government agencies, be it health, nutrition, housing, city planning, roads, transports, transportation departments, and so on. And therefore, putting young children at the center of city planning, design, and so on is a very interesting and useful lens to think about our cities, how to make them smarter, and also how to think about this intersectoral approach of things coming together to make a difference in the lives of people. And so that is my answer basically to your question of how we can think about some of these things, putting people at the center. Of course, I'm a little biased here, but of course, putting very young children for various key reasons at the center of this. And I'll give one example. For instance, we talk about climate, but of course, there is a huge component linked to it, which is air quality, air pollution. And if you think about young children, usually we try to do this exercise, but it's difficult to do this virtually. But if you think of young children and you think of their physical development, they are fragile. They have lungs that are rapidly growing, but are still very fragile if you think about the first few years of life. Then you think about air pollution. And you think about, in particular, let's say cars with exhausts that are at a particular height. So if you're looking at a toddler, and which is usually we say a height of 95 centimeters, which is the healthy height of a 3-year-old by WHO standards, then that child not only has fragile lungs, but a child and a toddler, a baby and a toddler, they breathe 4 times as much per minute as young adults. So 30 to 60 times more breaths, 30 to 60 breaths per minute, as opposed to 12 and 18 for adults. So you see that height, you see the car exhaust, you visualize it, and you see this young child with rapidly developing lungs. And you see that the impact is much more from a very basic standpoint. And so therefore, a lot of these arguments can be made about why you would put some of this lens on thinking about it. I think one example, finally, that I'll give and I'll pass over to you is that there is, in terms of examples, because all of this can sound quite abstract, but in terms of examples, one particular initiative that we are championing, we are part of, but it is actually by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs in collaboration with technical partners, which is looking at cities from this particular lens. And this is the urban ministry. So the urban ministry working on early childhood and looking at city planning and design from a very neighborhood-centric lens of how do you improve mobility and pedestrianization, walking, cycling, transport, access to early childhood services, health, daycare, and so on for young children at a neighborhood scale. And definitely including a resilient lens and a climate lens to this from a neighborhood scale. So this is an example. There are a number of cities associated with it that are taking forward some of this thinking. But with that, Amrita, I hope that answered the question. Happy to talk more. Back to you.
Sure. So it's indeed fascinating, and in fact, when we look at the smart cities mission, one of the big ideas was to put the citizen at the center of the entire planning process, and to ensure that the initiatives were seeing how the interface between infrastructure and citizen, and services and citizen, government and citizen gets impacted in different ways. So moving a little bit more to the micro level of how we actually inhabit the built spaces around us. Buildings and green spaces are obviously something that's been talked about a lot, and Angad, you've been working in that area, looking at the air quality indices and tech solutions around it. There's been a huge shift, at least in the conversation over the last decade, to talk about green indices of buildings, and it comes up in marketing literature more and more. So I just want to ask you, as an entrepreneur, what are you seeing? Is there a shift from marketing into actual adoption? And if yes, what are the driving factors as you see it?
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, we do operate at the interface of new buildings, smart cities, as well as green buildings. Especially we deal with a lot of builders across India, and that's not just corporate real estate, but also residential as well as industrial sites. Some of our largest customers are industrial sites. I think the initial conversation starts around how it makes people look. The second is for tax benefits. Third is for genuine climate impact. So I've invested in a couple of companies that build materials for, which are net zero materials or carbon capture tiles or so on. And I think there is a thought process of generic good for climate and truly good for climate. Truly good for climate is expensive and seldom scaled globally. I think one company that I know does it well is Stripe in the US, but that's less in the building space, more in the carbon capture space. I think short answer, have we seen traction? Yeah, tremendous traction, because there are not so many deep tech companies able to deliver true net zero solution. It's quite challenging, quite expensive and slow. So in the short term, I think those with the highest risk appetite will be able to do it. That's why there is a high barrier to entry more than anything else. So, but with respect to builders, the intent exists, because very often green solutions are longer lasting, sometimes more affordable, like, with respect to construction of real estate, and faster in process of setting up buildings. That's been the motivation for people to adopt it. So I think we can't rely on people's goodwill to want to say that we want climate tech to scale. Companies have to build products that are far superior than existing products for them to be adopted, and they need to be cost competitive. So because we've tried our best to fall in those categories, we see traction. If we just 2 years ago, probably not as much, right? Because the approach was just to build meaningful technologies. Now it's to build meaningful technologies that are highly competitive with what exists. And that's when you will have a transition occurring.
So it's fantastic that you mentioned that your clients are actually spanning industries as well, and along with buildings and, let's say, like, transportation, industry obviously is the other big producer of energy and waste of different kinds. So is regulation playing a big role in terms of, like, all of the norms that are coming in from CB in terms of reporting and daily reporting and so on? Are they a driver in industries adopting some of the climate smart initiatives that you're talking about?
I'm sure it's a nudge. The enforceability of a lot of these are questionable. And so the way to solve it is to provide monetary incentive, because that's what shifts the needle, right? So what we end up doing is, say, one of our largest clients is a public steel company, a very large steel company in India. Intent is there to help and make genuine progress towards it. That's why they're doing it. And so what we help them do is to actually save a lot of raw material in the manufacturing process itself by using our technologies, right? In the production of steel, there's coal and coke in the early process, and that goes through several different machines that end up creating something called fugitive emissions, where the dust is primarily escaping during the manufacturing process. And that's what the factory workers are breathing in 24 hours a day. So the air quality in the factory is actually orders of magnitude worse than New Delhi in the worst times. And this is the case throughout the day, throughout the year, even in monsoon season, right? So what we help them do is, by capturing fugitive dust and putting it back into the manufacturing process, they're saving costs. Second is, they're saving cost with respect to the health insurance provisions they have to create for a very large number of employees every single year, right? Third is, you're getting carbon offsetting credits, because our technologies by themselves in manufacturing are net zero, and there's an option to set the operations to be net zero, which means we'll offset the CO2 that went into powering these technologies, right? And that's not through carbon trading, it's through carbon capture, right? So by doing that, you are actually trying to be one of the propellants in giving people the tools to solve the problem, and to do it in a manner that's tailored to the Indian or developing country mindset, right? So I don't think documents and laws will make things change. I think financial incentive is what moves the needle in countries like India.
Really well said. I think, people do look for that savings that they can gain from multiple factors. So if you can couch new technology in those terms, it really helps. I think, I'd love to discover and understand more of what you do. But shifting gears a little bit into, because this is a really broad space, looking at green infrastructure and mobility, and especially when we look at our the transport infrastructure, if we look at the shift from private to public vehicles with metro coming up in so many cities, and with the move towards making all of our vehicles into EV by a particular date and deadline, which is coming up soon in a few years. So and then there are a lot of other initiatives around green water, both at the building level, but also at the city level, where they're talking a lot more of recycling of water and reuse into different ways within the city itself, and so on. We're talking about a lot of climate smart initiatives at, let's say, railway stations and transportation hubs, and usage of different kinds of electricity for transport. So there's a lot that is happening in many, many different ways, right? So as both individual citizens living in the country, as well as business people, impacting certain spectrums within this large space, what do you see? Do you see any constraints or challenges in which green and mobility / infrastructure is progressing? And what would be needed at the citizen level to ensure that we actually adopt and use some of these newer modes of transportation that might become available to us? Both of you, please.
Let Rishta start with hers.
Thanks, Amrita, for the question. So when I think of this question in terms of constraints and challenges, but also in line with what the global trends are at this point, and also what, from a city perspective and an urban perspective, what cities are, how cities are moving forward on this. I think one of the things that we've seen through our initiatives or the work that we do globally is this whole idea of 15-minute neighborhood and the idea of neighborhood scale, which I briefly touched upon in terms of the work that I described earlier. And so what that does basically, if you think about mobility and you think about green infrastructure that is linked to mobility, is that you are talking a lot about locating services closer to where people are, and therefore perhaps reducing the need to use a lot of cars. Of course, there is a massive behavior change at the center of this, which I'll talk about in a moment. But basically, this alignment is happening in cities all over the world. Of course, it's a long battle and a long road potentially ahead. But this is the trend of looking at pedestrianization, looking at walking and cycling. And if you really look at cities across the world that score really high in terms of their livability index, if you will, or the quality of life, they all have excellent walking, cycling, public transport networks. And they also promote the use of these among people to reduce their dependency on driving, and therefore leading to less air pollution as well. Of course, this has many other benefits in terms of health and savings and so on to the economy and so on. But this is one thing, and the other thing which you've already touched upon is public transport, which Indian cities are seeing an increasing trend towards, and of course many cities already have this as well, especially because we live in Mumbai. The other aspect is also this creating plenty of green spaces. So from the lens that I come from, which is early childhood, regular outdoor activities, time spent in natural environments with a lot of green will support physical and mental development of young children and families. And of course, this exposure also limits their exposure. Of course, if you look at the climate angle, they also are a source of basically reducing, designing green spaces in neighborhoods can protect existing open spaces. They can reduce the heat effect. They can really help in various ways and provide a cooling effect in cities at times when the world is plagued by all of these issues. So this is the other area that we think is being emphasized already across the world. I think Indian cities do need to, are thinking about it and will find ways to improve it. I think all of this requires a lot of social thinking on social behavior change and a lot of communication around such interventions. So one thing is to create these kinds of interventions, but the other thing is to induce adoption of these interventions. So from what we are seeing is that cities are looking, but this is still a long way to go at looking at understanding behaviors and drivers of these behaviors among people, and also kind of looking at knowledge, attitudes, and practices, and therefore then designing interventions that are supportive of either those behaviors or supportive of shifting those behaviors. Because a lot of times we find that a lot of infrastructure, green or not, is designed without, again, this user in mind, be it young children or just people in general. And so that shift needs to happen not only for the users, but also for the people who are designing and thinking about these kinds of initiatives, which may be new in particular contexts, and how do you really put people at the center and look at their behaviors and then design something. And it may not necessarily be a huge highway that needs to be built, for instance, or any other green initiative, but that the tweaks could be simpler and would also support our goals, climate goals. Over to you, Anga.
It's fantastic.
I mean, that's very helpful. I think I have a slightly different opinion on this. On a higher level, I think I'm quite excited about the metro that's being built in Mumbai, and I'm excited to be a user of it. Spend a lot of time driving, and probably not great from a carbon impact standpoint. But going back to the point, I think the geography and the physical construction of each country is unique. And so we can't try to replicate models being used in the West in India. And an example of that would be charging stations, right? We try to build horizontal landscape charging station where we don't have that much land accessibility in unplanned cities like Mumbai. So, I've been barking about this publicly for the last 2 years, is that, the tallest mines or the tallest or the deepest, so the deepest mines are more deep than the tallest buildings in the world, right? So fundamentally, if you're stacking vehicles, like if you take a mall in the city, right, any mall, the number of vehicles you can cram in a certain limited area is far more superior vertically than you can horizontally, right? So if you're building vertical charging stations where you can have 1,000 to 2,000 cars being charged in one building, as opposed to expecting hectares worth of land to charge those vehicles, one, you solve the distance anxiety that people have, range anxiety people have with respect to electric vehicles. Second is when you're talking about water usage and other chapters, right? So you're building a new building with 200 crores in the city, the construction cost. If you spend 1% of that budget, you can do rainwater harvesting and do the washing of cars, maintenance of the property through that harvested rainwater throughout the year. So it's a 1% question, which is on the builder really deciding whether or not they want to do it. Second is if you have an existing building which is 30, 40, 50 years old, how much does it actually cost to implement a rainwater harvesting system for, say, 10 houses in one of those older buildings? It's less than 5 lakh rupees, right? 5 lakh rupees split between 10 houses with a lifespan of at least a decade is an insignificant amount of money to be invested once for a long-term impact, right? I genuinely don't think it is faster to convince people than to build technologies which cause least resistance and change, right? So I think the approach has to be very unique and political / policy based, and more really technology and aspiration based. People bought Tesla not because it is an electric vehicle. People bought Tesla because of the aspirational value of having a self-driving car that does 0 to 60 in 2 seconds and has 4 doors and a gigantic touch screen, right? And hey, it also happened to be electric. So electric was the last factor for people to decide whether they want a Tesla. It was something that makes them feel good. So if we make it seem like an obligation, no one's really interested in having the conversation. If you make technologies or sustainable solutions exciting and aspirational, that's when you start seeing a trend of people adopting it. So Pran's entire approach, even though we are in in the air quality space and there's so much depressing information about it outdoors, in none of our brochures, slide decks, public talks will you see us talking about, oh, it takes 7 million lives a year, etc. It's like, do you want to own the world's most advanced filterless purification technology that gives cleaner air in spaces wherever you are, and your air quality is going to be orders of magnitude greater than the neighbor's building? That's a conversation people want to have, right? And then you make the technology look and feel like $1 million. That's when people want to buy it. So I think our approach has just been different. How do I get someone to not go to a party and come to my launch event, right? So that only happens when it's aspirational and exciting. It's unlikely to be that, hey, you're responsible for air quality, etc. No one cares. So I think there's an approach difference. And once we are able to do that for a vast number of things, you'll start seeing more translation of money being rolled in and action in this space.
Fantastic. I think I'm getting the signal to end the session now. Really, it's a very broad area. We've barely touched things like, we talked a little bit about regulation and policy. You just touched upon the branding and marketing and the positioning aspects of it. There are the downsides of green energy, really how green is green, because there's disposal of many of these the hardware that is there, from batteries to solar panels to wind farm blades and so on, which are coming up from larger like other countries now. So there's a lot to talk and a lot to discuss, and I hope that we've left our viewers and listeners today with a lot of ideas to delve into. And with that, I will actually turn it back to the moderator to bring on the students. And thank you again, Rushta and Angat, for your fantastic comments.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Let's give them a huge, huge round of applause. Amrita, Rushta, and Angat, what a fabulous, and I know we're on a virtual platform, but our applause could continue. Let's give them a huge round of applause. Well, with this, ladies and gentlemen, and as taking Amrita's cue on that, let's bring in our students now who are going to be talking on this theme. Now, remember, students, that time is of the biggest asset, and you all have 2 minutes each. I'm going to be intervening you if you cross those 2 minutes. So be prepared whilst as you deliver this wonderful topic. Well, first up, if I could have Yuvika Nathawat from Jai Hind College, Mumbai, to join us. Yuvika, your 2 minutes right now. Yes.
Very good afternoon to everyone present here. I'm going to be talking about climate smart India. There are so many things that comes to one's mind when we talk about climate, especially when it is with respect to India's current scenario. So as we see the seasons change, the impact of worldwide climate crisis can be felt. Experts keep talking about the need for a plan in order to save our country and the world from these adversities for the sake of our future. The focus on conserving our future is so great that we forget that we also need to think about our present. The National Action Plan for Climate Smart India was launched in 2008 with 8 submissions with objectives spanning solar, water, and other various efficient and sustainable energy areas, and how to better utilize them to reduce the emissions intensity of our country. However, in the spirit in which this program was set up was left unfulfilled due to lack of oversight and actionable items over the last 15 years now. So while we've grown tremendously as a developing nation over the last decade, so has the rate at which emissions are generated through various industrial arms which have helped us reach a state of global importance. So as we transition towards becoming a more important nation, our priority should align with the plan set out by NAPCC as well with as much urgency. We firsthand also experienced an agonizingly hot March, April, spring, heat waves across the northern parts of the country, and upheaval in the livelihood of all sections of our society. As inheritors of this earth, let's make in this most uncertain times, let's make it our priority to combat climate change from the grassroots and reignite the promises of NAPCC as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well before time, Yuvika, on that. Kudos to you and thank you for your thoughts. Well, ladies and gentlemen, with this, I now would like to invite Ms. Sakshi from Doon University, Dehradun, Uttarakhand to join us. Sakshi, your 2 minutes start now.
Good evening to all respected dignitaries and everyone present here. I am Sakshi Kaparwan, pursuing PhD degree under the supervision of Professor Purohit at Doon University. I will start my speech with a beautiful verse from Bhagavad Gita, that is, Maya dhakshin prakrita suyate sacharacharam hetunane konteya jagat dviparivartite. The environment which provides us so many beautiful gifts is under some drastic conditions now. And one thing we all must remember, that the environment is not ours to take or leave, it is ours to make. Today, India scored lowest among 180 countries, and according to the Environment Performance Index and according to Air Quality Life Index, India is the second most polluted country after Bangladesh. So we are living in an age of considerable climate change, and the report of World Economic Forum also says that the disasters happening every year is due to climate change and the imbalance in our ecosystem. For this, I personally feel GDP of a country fails the true measure of economic welfare. In a world that is rapidly facing sins from the troubles of environmental past and present, every step forward is crucial. Hence, the concept of green or sustainable has emerged. For the last 8 years, India has seen 10 times the growth in the consumption of green products. Some green initiatives taken by the government is also truly appreciable in building a sustainable zone, like ISO certification, Namami Gange program, Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, Green Skill Development Program, and Green Energy Corridor project. And last but not the least, one thing I would like to ideate for this conclave, as the ongoing Char Dham Yatra has witnessed in Uttarakhand, has witnessing there is an increase of number of people and heaps of plastic waste and garbage. The way plastic garbage has piled up there is quite hazardous for our ecology. So people who are going there, I would like to make you a request to kindly do not litter and maintain the sacredness of Char Dham. After all, it is our karma and dharma to protect our Mother Earth. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sakshi, way before time, and congratulations on your views. With this, I'd now like to invite Ms. Nidhi from IES Management College and Research Center, Mumbai, to start off now. Nidhi, your 2 minutes start now.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I, Nidhi Ambekar, would like to thank IMC for giving me this incredible opportunity to share my views on green initiatives, Climate Smart India. India, like the rest of the world, is encountering problems like global warming, forest fire, ocean pollution, irregular rainfalls, floods that are endangering basics like food security, that are causing threats to the coastal population and industries, and also human and animal migration. Currently, India is placed close to the bottom of the Environmental Performance Index based on its 18 parameters. The question is enough being done today to avert a potential crisis? So I have looked at this from two perspectives: identification of the critical arenas and the speed of implementation, with serious involvement of all constituents like policymakers, media, business leaders, non-government organizations, and also public at large. To briefly explain this, led by our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi, our government has taken initiatives such as the Clean Cooking Mission and Roshni to cut down fuel consumption and CO2 emission. India has also started with blending 10% ethanol in petrol. This increase from 2% in 2014 to 10% today has resulted in a reduction of lakhs of tons of carbon emission. Now, in terms of solar energy, in addition to Tata's rooftop mission and the EV charging stations of oil marketing companies, startups like Sunroof, Aether Energy, Blue Smart are also promoting and profiting from sustainable businesses in rural and urban areas. I believe India is blessed with the largest coast, and we should increase this commitment towards our ocean sustainability for capturing the issue of CO2 and marine biodiversity. India must think out of the box here. To illustrate, we can develop technologies like the Korean bottleless washing machines that will reduce the direct release of microfibers into the rivers and oceans around us. As APJ Abdul Kalam has said,
your time is up. 2 minutes are up. Apologies on that. Well, with this, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for me to call upon our next student. Miss Harini from IIM Bangalore. Miss Harini, your 2 minutes start now.
Good afternoon, everyone. Fighting climate change calls for innovation, cooperation, and the willpower to make the changes that the world needs. True to these words of our Honorable Prime Minister, India is at the forefront in fighting the challenges that are coming towards us in the form of climate change. So, climate conversations are heating up across the globe. And one of these reasons is that it's because of the environment, but it is also plaguing our health and economy. Close to 1.2 billion people across the globe have their jobs which depend on a sustainable and a stable ecosystem, and conversations in this regard are therefore very, very important. In early April 2022, the Ministry of Forest, Environment and Climate Change launched their awareness mascot Prakriti to create mass awareness of how small changes in our lifestyle can go about and create massive changes in terms of ecological sustainability. India has also adopted the Swachh Bharat Harit Bharat Green Pledge to do away with the use of single-usage plastics by 2022. Several Indian organizations like the Tata Group, Reliance Industries, to name a few, are coming up with different initiatives like green bonds, creating paperless drives, and moving to EV, to name a few. India is also partnering with the World Bank in initiatives which involve transportation, power transmission, water resources, and climate resilient agriculture. My proposal for India to ideate at 100 would be very simple: grow more green plants. Green plants not only beautify the atmosphere, but they also help in absorbing the toxic fumes, alcoholic vapors, toxic poisonous gases, particulate matter, and dust. When you grow green plants, you not only grow plants, but you also grow green air, is what I have to say. We as citizens of India owe it to ourselves and everyone around us in order to helping our nation attain its environmental gains. Let's all join hands in making India energy independent and a global leader. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Harini, on that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, with this, I'd now like to invite Mr. Mohammed Yusuf Mustafa, Symbiosis School of Economics, Pune, Maharashtra. Mohammed, your 2 minutes start now.
Thank you, ma'am. We have students from major universities here, and I'm sure all of them have plan A and plan B for their careers. But what we need to realize right now is that if we fail to take action against climate change, there's no planet B for us. At the UN Climate Change Conference in 2021, India announced Panchamitra, under which we pledged that India's non-fossil fuel energy capacity will reach 500 gigawatts. We will meet 50% of our energy requirements from renewable energy. We will reduce the total projected carbon emission by 1 billion tons. We will reduce the carbon intensity of our economy by 45%. All this is going to happen in the next 8 years. India will also achieve the net zero target of carbon emissions by 2070. The government of India has set aside approximately $1.7 billion for 42 cities to fight air pollution, provided they reduce their air pollution levels by 15% every year. This is the world's first performance-based fiscal transfer funding program for air quality management in cities. Ganesha Ecosphere, a company engaged in the recycling of PET bottles, clocked a profit of approximately 100 crore last year. The company has so far recycled 40 billion bottles and produces rPET yarns from the recycled bottles, showing us how solutions can also prove to be opportunities. The Green Skill Development Program by the Government of India gives us the unique opportunity to integrate Skill India with Green India. Time and again, we have proven that with every problem, we have a solution and plenty of opportunities. Climate change and pollution is one such problem with not only solutions, but also opportunities. We always talk about disruptive companies who change the way we live. But now we, the young citizens of India, must also make use of this opportunity, harness our skills for the next disruption, the second green revolution of not only India, but also of the world. This is how I see India at 100, harnesser of opportunities, leader of innovative business disruptions, and a forerunner of solutions. Thank you.
Well done, way in time. Congratulations on that. Well, with this, I'd now like to invite Ms. Rachna Suneja, Vivekanand Education Society's Institute of Management Studies Research, Mumbai, to join us. Ms. Rachna, your 2 minutes start now.
Good evening, everyone. Climate change is one of the most critical global challenges of our times. Recent events have emphatically demonstrated our growing vulnerability to climate change. I believe we as the citizens of Green India individually can mitigate the effects of global warming by tracking our annual carbon emissions. My idea consists of an app similar to Arogya Setu that is launched by Government of India and will help the users to track their carbon footprint. Initially, the app will measure our annual carbon footprint generated by two main factors, that is fuel and electricity consumption. The app will be generated with PAN card, integrated with the PAN card. For vehicle owners, an all-time code will be generated, which the person needs to present at the time of filling fuel/electricity at the refill station. The app will also be integrated with the respective state electricity supplier. In later stages, the app will also track flying hours and red meat consumption. A certain limit of carbon footprint would be set by the government. If the person exceeds that limit, he will have to pay carbon tax. The carbon tax earned will be used by the government for mitigating various environmental sources of pollution, such as replacing stubble burning by technology, introducing fleet of electrified public transport vehicles, etc. For those who have carbon footprints less than a particular set of limit, will have various benefits, such as for non-earning members, a concession in education fees, concession in public transport, and for earning members, a rebate in income tax. This app will also be a tool to spread awareness about all environmental related news and information. By hearing the incentives, people would get motivated and be very conscious, persuade others also to reduce their carbon footprint, therefore having a positive butterfly effect. I think if this is successful, we can have a huge difference in terms of reduction in the emissions. This model will thus create smart people, smart cities. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations on the wonderful thoughts you created on the forum. Well, ladies and gentlemen, for our final student for this session, I'd like to humbly invite Mr. Akshat Jain, Xavier School of Management in New Delhi, to join us. Akshat, your 2 minutes start now.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. I am grateful to get an opportunity to voice my opinion at this prestigious forum. India is the third largest contributor to pollution in the world. According to a recent World Bank study, if India does not act on the climate change by 2050, living standards could fall by 2.8 percentage points. In the event of temperature rise of 2 degrees Celsius by 2050, which is very much possible, India will have to import more than twice the food grain it will be required without the climate change. Thus, it's a mission whose importance cannot be overstated. At the 26th Conference of Parties, Prime Minister Narendra Modi declared a 5-fold strategy, the Panchamitra, to achieve climate protection. These 5 points included India getting its non-fuel energy capacity to 500 gigawatts, meeting 50% of energy requirement from renewable resources, reducing the total projected carbon emission by 1 billion tons from now onwards, and reducing the carbon intensity of its economy by less than 25% by 2030. Also, by year 2070, India will achieve the target of net zero. The government took various initiatives towards green energy, hydrogen energy mission, allocating private financing for buses to improve public transport, deep ocean mission, and urban Swachh Bharat mission 2.0 are some of the great initiatives by the government in this direction. For Indian businesses, climate change can turn out to be a gold mine. India can achieve significant economic growth by supplying products, services, and financing. The initiatives by the government to promote the solar energy has given opportunities to many solar power developers. Electric vehicles have also become central to the discussion on business in times of climate change. We also need to prepare our agriculture practices for the sustainable future. The preparation would involve deepening the penetration of micro irrigation systems, which brings down water use by half, and wider the use of drought and flood resistant varieties of crops. Moreover, there are immense economic opportunities in other climate-related sectors, such as green buildings and green energy efficiency as well. Thus, I would like to conclude with the thought that climate protection is the need of the hour, and the youth of the country has immense potential and opportunity to serve the Mother Earth and also make a business out of it. Thus, it's a high time we think on this in this direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Akshat, on that. Well, we'd really like to applaud all our students for giving in those thoughts. And thank you so much to Amrita, Rushda, and Angad from our previous panel to stick around and hear these ideas, because this is a theme where we requested all our leaders to talk on as well. Thank you once again to all our leaders for joining us as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, with this and a lot of applause coming your way, it is time for us to move ahead in interest of time to our final session. Now, this session in terms of panel discussion is going to be the final one, which is envisioning India's future, a global perspective. For this, we'd now like to call upon our moderator, Ms. Vibha Kagzi, founder and chief education officer of richivy.com. Ms. Vibha holds an MBA from the Harvard Business School and a Bachelor of Science from the Carnegie Mellon University. She has also pursued courses at the University of California, London School of Economics, Indian School of Business, and the Xavier's Institute of Communication. She's also a certified leadership coach from the Coach for Life USA. Her professional experience spans finance, fashion, media, and public relations. Vibha has also published a book called Break the MBA Code and has been featured extensively across different forms of media. Thank you so much, Vibha, for joining us and agreeing to moderate our session today.
Thank you. Thank you, our team IMC, and thank you, Bhavna, for that generous introduction.
Thank you so much. With this, I'd now like to invite our panelists. First up, Ms. Priya Samant, Tech Executive Impact Advisor, Boston, joining us from US. Ms. Priya is a tech and a media entrepreneur with extensive knowledge in technology, arts, policy making, social impact, and the entertainment domain. She's the CEO and co-founder of Abris.io, a company specializing in Web3 space. She's also a creator of the concept and the credit title Impact Advisor for Cause-Based Cinema, given in the Indian films, primarily in Hindi films. Priya is also a theater artist and an active member of the Stage Ensemble Theater Unit. Thank you so much, Priya, for joining us today. Great to have you. Well, joining us after Priya would be Ms. Ashni Shah, the founder and creative director, Ashni & Co. Ashni, being a pioneer, is bringing the best of South Asian couture to the UK and Europe through her leading multi-designer store, Ashni & Co., an annual wedding show topping extravaganza. Her career trajectory has transitioned from filmmaking to launching the UK's leading South Asian luxury multi-designer boutique in London's Notting Hill and e-commerce site ashniandco.com. Today, Ashni is a revered authority of the Indian fashion and has a keen eye for spotting talent and a finger on the pulse of her patrons' need. Thank you so much, Ashni, for joining us today. So as we have Ashni as well, who's joined us, with this, I'd now like to take the honor of inviting our next panelist, Mr. Harsh Shah, CEO, IRM India affiliate. Well, Harsh has been delivering sessions in enterprise risk management since the age of 21 and has educated over 9,000 plus students from varied backgrounds. He manages the IRM qualifications examinations and the research projects in India and has over 12 years of experience in audit and assurance, risk management, consulting, corporate finance, including structuring strategic alliances and partnerships. He was previously associated with KPMG Risk Consulting, where he worked on many enterprise risk consignments across the South Africa, USA, UK, China, and Middle East. With this, I'd like to humbly welcome Harsh on the screen. So with this, ladies and gentlemen, as you have your wonderful panelists all set, I'd now like to give in the live baton to our moderator to take forth with the panel. Vibha, all over to you to take forth with this panel.
Thank you, Bhavna. Thank you, Bhavna, for opening our panel here. And thank you once again, Team IMC, for putting this panel together and giving me the opportunity to interact with these esteemed panelists from all across the globe. It's an absolute delight to have Harsh, Ashni, and Priya, all from different continents. So looking forward to a very global discussion here today with all of you. I've kept the questions general, so I'm going to throw out a question to all the panelists. And it would be great if, if Harsh could maybe take the lead, followed by Ashni and then Priya. And then obviously, if anyone would like to jump in at any point, please feel free to. All right, so guys, since the panel is called Envisioning India's Future, a Global Perspective, of course, the future of any country lies in the hands of its youth. So when you look at the youth of India today, what according to you is the strength of India's youth from your lenses?
Yeah, thanks, Vibha, for that question, and very good evening to the wonderful young audience that we have today. From my perspective, I think India's youth today is adventurous. They want to explore a lot of things quite early on in their careers and lives. The second most important skill that they possess is the courage to challenge and drive change wherever they go. And lastly is, believing in focusing on good health and a work-life balance, whilst also focusing on speed in everything that they do. So I'll just keep it short and concise that they are adventurous. They want to drive change. They want to challenge the status quo. And at the same time, they want good health and work-life balance with speed.
Fantastic. That sounds like a lethal combination.
Should I go next? I think adding on to exactly what Harsh is saying, I think today's youth, I think the biggest strength that they have is the ability to adapt to different technology at a lightning speed, which is truly one of the biggest strengths. The generation is more curious, I think more conscious of the choices that they make, whether it's in terms of fashion, lifestyle, any of that. They are interested in knowing what the brands have to offer, what the story is behind the product. In general, a greater awareness and I think a much wider perspective. Today, people are accepting every form of fashion, whether it's fast fashion, slow fashion, be it luxury or pre-loved, being aware of the environment, I think taking initiatives and helping the environment in their own way, which is great to see coming out of India, where khadi was always bigger than polyester to begin with. And I think it is such an amazing strength to see in the youth today.
Fabulous. Okay, so lots more awareness, but I like the first point you touched upon, just the adaptability to technology, which we haven't seen in the generations prior to us as much as we see in the current generation. Thank you. Thanks, Ashni.
Hi everyone. So I would just like to add one more thing here. Adaptability is not just to technology that the youths have, but also adaptability to the environment. That's very important. They kind of travel within the country or outside the country, and they are so adaptable to and flexible to what's around them. And that's extremely important in the times that we are living, that those skills they have. So I would say the youth of today, of Indian youth, they possess the executive skills that one requires, but also the self-regulation skills that's extremely important. And I would say that, communication skills that they have. So if you put in the soft skills bucket, if you take a look at it, the panel before us, there were so many students that spoke, and they spoke so well. And I was amazed by the amount of minute that you have. It's kind of an elevator pitch that they did. That was so great. So I think the future is looking extremely bright for these young kids.
Okay, soft skills as well. So for the young people watching, lots of high hopes pinned on you guys. Huh? Everyone's very optimistic about the youth of this country. So all the best to you guys. Let's take the next question. So since we have, sort of sector experts and we're on this panel, someone from the fashion domain, someone from the tech, film, governance, lots of things that Priya is doing, and Harsh from a risk assessment perspective. If you could, do a quick sort of SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats of your sectors for any of our guests here who might be interested in your sectors. If you could break your sector down in a SWOT format, that would be very helpful.
So Vibha, since risk actually cuts across all the sectors, and without sounding too cynical, because risk is always perceived as a negative concept, I'd like to just throw some statistics on the table saying that 97% startups actually fail within the first 3 years of operations. If you talk about cybercrime, cybersecurity, or any kind of digital risks, about 59% adults actually fell prey to a cybercrime in the last 12 months. If I talk on supply chain, just looking at the Suez Canal crisis, I think it cost Egypt about $16 million a day. And when I look at the family-run businesses or the small, medium enterprises, 85% organizations actually don't have a succession plan. And coming to what Priya said, on the future of jobs and the skills, more than 40% jobs actually will become redundant due to automation and technology. So in a nutshell, we're seeing climate change, cybersecurity, reputation crisis, geopolitical events, people-related risks, which are emerging as the biggest challenges which are haunting not only organizations, but individuals, societies, and governments. And the general lifespan of companies, ideas, concepts is decreasing because of these continuous changes. So the opportunity here for the youth is that, are you looking at risk management? Are you able to think from a risk perspective? And that's where you can create opportunities in every industry. If you are able to spot a risk, whether it's in blockchain, metaverse, fashion, manufacturing, FMCG, and you're able to curate a solution, that's where your preparedness is high and you will emerge as a resilient individual.
I love that, Harsh. So eloquently put. In every risk, there lies an opportunity. Great, fantastic. Thank you, Harsh, for that one.
So I think I will begin with the opportunities here, because I truly feel that the fashion industry is like a universe in itself. I think one of the biggest opportunities that I would see working in fashion today would be the large scale use of social media and the professional networking sites to connect with the people in the relevant sector. Since social media is now majorly image based, it almost feels like it is catering to the fashion industry, and it's made for the fashion industry. It can also be a major boost to a startup, because people are shopping on Instagram, people are shooting their lookbooks, putting it up on Instagram, linking it to their websites. So I think social media itself has become an avenue to make revenue. It is a booming industry. There's a place for everyone in fashion. I think from creatives, digital merchandising, you name it. And now with tech coming in the form of NFTs and metaverse, I think there's a new space for technology in fashion. And who would have thought that's ever going to happen? In terms of challenges, 100% agree to what Harsh is saying. Where there's a risk, there's an opportunity. But yes, the biggest challenges I would see is finding a niche in the industry, because today the industry is inundated with thousands of designers and creators, for that matter. We've got influencers, we've got content creators, we've got designers. The supply is never ending, and I'm not sure whether that much demand is currently there for the need of fast fashion. I think that is going to be the biggest challenge in the fashion industry.
Great, thanks, Ashni. So it seems like fashion is all embracing. There's a little bit of room for everyone, and definitely digital marketing. And definitely when I go onto Instagram as an external user, it seems like it is designed for people in fashion. So definitely large landscape there for lots of people to explore. Thank you. Priya, over to you.
Hi. So Ashni mentioned about NFTs and metaverse, and even Harsh touched upon it. So I am in the Web3 space, and what I would say is, like any other industry, so the web is going through the iteration now, which is called Web3, and it might sound very cryptic to most of it, and people shy away from it. But the world is going through digitalization, and the sooner we accept it, the better it is. Many of them call it the fad, but I'm telling you, it's a future. There's a lot of investments happening in this area, and the sooner we adapt to it, the better it is for everyone. There's a huge learning curve here. But wherever there is a learning curve, wherever there is a new market opportunity, there is tons of when market opportunities rise, there are also a lot of jobs that get created. There's a lot of room for innovating and entrepreneurship that happens in various forms. So see, NFTs, I'll tell you as an example, is just not catered to a market. It can be the utility of NFTs is not just to creating digital art. It can go beyond that. We have done political fundraising through NFT at our company, for a candidate who ran for the US Congress. We are doing Akshay Patra, which is the world's largest nonprofit. We have done NFTs for them. So it is beyond what one thinks. There is a lot of
impact there, there's a lot of learning there. So now whenever such new technologies or whenever new segments come in, of course, there's a lot of risk and there's a lot of challenges that are there. But as we've touched upon the skills of adaptability, right? That should be kind of be taken into consideration there. And when we do the SWOT analysis, risk is the biggest factor that is there. But with every risk, there is opportunity, and that can be easily mitigated.
Okay, so thanks, Priya, for that. I think, Harsh, we circle back to your original phrase, every risk has an opportunity. But Priya also highlighting the importance of Web 3.0, NFTs, cryptos, all that stuff. For a lot of people, that's still jargon. I think about time that we all start making some sense of what all the terminology is, because it is the future and probably something we can't escape. All right, guys, since I come from an education background, as you know, I am a campus junkie. I love spending time learning and upskilling. So from your perspective and in your specific sectors, if you had to advise all our young members today on upskilling for your specific sectors or just in general, what sort of courses and upskilling would you recommend that they keep their eyes on?
Sure. I think if you look at the future of work and create a 10-year horizon, anything that's got to do with marketing, digital and tech, climate change, sustainability, and risk management is going to do really well. And I have statistics to prove that. Marketing, we have almost 100,000 job openings just in India. If you talk on digital, another 115,000 jobs which are open in various aspects of technology, cybersecurity, metaverse, blockchain, NFTs, all of that. Climate change and sustainability with the whole wave of ESG, still it's new, nascent, but I'm going to see a prediction of at least 5,000 jobs being created in the next 2 to 3 years. And risk management alone, there are about 35,000 job opportunities just in India. So I feel these 4 areas is where your courses lie. From my perspective, I run the India chapter for Institute of Risk Management. We're a global professional body headquartered in the UK with presence in 140 countries. So we have a classic 5-level pathway to becoming a certified risk professional. If I look at softer skills, and it's very important to talk about this because people are only selling courses and not selling skills, I feel complex problem solving, critical analysis, negotiation, and emotional intelligence. These 4 are again very, very important. So if you do a very simple matrix of skills and jobs, that's where you should probably play the X and 0 and decide where you want to build your future.
Okay, great. Thanks, Harsh. So it seems like you're definitely in favor of upskilling, and in addition to the hard skills, one must also keep their eyes strongly focused on the soft skills aspect. Okay, great. Ashni, over to you.
So Vibha, as I said, fashion, it's a universe by itself. It can cover every course that can be listed in any university today. But I do think doing a schooling in fashion is relevant. And I say this with experience because I jumped into fashion from films, having no experience in fashion before I started the company. But any course that is giving you a chance today to explore the industry you'd want to specialize in, giving you a chance to enter into the field, learning the basics, and I think very importantly, an opportunity to work in that sector should be your main goal when you choose any course. Today, India itself has some amazing fashion schools. You've got NID, you've got NIFT. In the UK, you've got CSM, you've got all of these affiliations today in India, which can hone your skills to a large extent, choosing the best school for you, specializing in the area you wish to work for, which I think is every youth, they kind of get confused when they're starting off with because they don't know exactly what they want to do. They know they want to do fashion, but what in fashion is a big question mark. So I think just first off, choosing a broader perspective, a broader course, getting to know and then working in that in different sectors, whether you're interning at a designer or whether, whatever you may choose to do or be, whether it's fashion communication, fashion digital marketing, a creative, it's important to first have the basic knowledge by going to a school, and then and I think then arming it with solid work experience before you start off.
Okay, so grounding yourselves in some theory and then obviously combining and accentuating that with the practical to you is the right way forward. Okay, very helpful. Thank you. Over to you, Priya.
Yes, so see, I come in the again, I'm going to speak from the Web3 space first. So from that space, it's a very, very new area that, people are kind of dabbling into. So there's a lot to learn. There's a huge learning curve here. So from that perspective, at our company, we have a product side, and on the services side, education is one of our very core areas that we are looking at. And we have already started to actually reach out to colleges in the US area, the suburbs, so that students can understand what this is. And it's, as you had mentioned, Vibha, that it's not very foreign and alien to them. Oh, what are we getting into? Because when people talk about crypto, they this is not for us, this is something. No, it's just one part of the whole big universe of Web3. So that learning is very important. The most important point is what Harsh already brought to the table, is the soft skills. I have spoken about it in, earlier as well. It's the most important thing, one can learn, and one can, start kind of utilizing those skills in their daily life. It's extremely important, because the course learning can happen through books, but soft skills, they actually come, by working and interacting with people around. And it's extremely important. And I say, when I came to this country, so I'm here in this country in the United States now for almost 22 years. So a few years down the line, I actually learned, I did a certificate course in negotiations and conflict management from Harvard Law, because I really wanted to learn. See, my goal at that time was to go more on the diplomacy side, but then that skills are still helping me today, in the negotiation part. And that's extremely important for today's youth to understand and adapt and move forward with it.
Okay, thank you, Priya. So you're saying you can't ignore the tech, you can't ignore the 3.0 for sure. Additionally, soft skills, negotiation, ability to convince and speak to people, definitely at the top of the pyramid. Okay, thank you guys for sharing your views on upskilling. I want to move a little bit to the global stage, since we have the benefit of having all of you from these different lenses. How can we, accentuate the voice of the Indian youth internationally? Are we providing the right platforms? How do we get the Indian voice heard more globally? I know, Priya, you're doing a lot of work on this. But let's start with Harsh. And Harsh, any ideas on this? How do we get India out of the global map even more effectively?
I think Indians are excellent problem solvers. We're very good with jugaad. We're very good with out-of-the-box thinking. And I think by birth, we are resilient individuals. We know how to manage a crisis much faster than any other country. And whether you look at the Sri Lanka crisis, the Ukraine-Russia war, whatever is happening around the world, somewhere India has sustained. We're still growing. We are set to become the fastest growing economy, as our government has mentioned. And I think the Indian youth can stand out with this out-of-the-box problem-solving approach, where if we're able to create solutions for the world's biggest problems, then here's a massive opportunity. And there are various platforms which are available across the globe to bring that to the forefront.
Okay, so you're saying voice of the youth to be heard through effective problem solving, because jugaad is in our DNA. Okay, great. Okay, hopefully we see some more solutions emerging from the youth of India solving global issues. Fantastic.
I think the biggest strength we have today is today the West adapting our Eastern traditional methods, be it the use of khadi cotton, be it yoga, be it anything. I think today India is loud and clear and is standing firm. It's culturally rooted, it's yet modern. if I'm strictly talking about fashion right now, then I think it's more about finding your niche. It is your selection of fabrics, your patterns, but a global voice today. Look at Aditya Birla Group, look at Reliance, look at all the takeovers that has taken Sabyasachi, all of these big designers today, they are now going to be going global. Sabyasachi is opening its first store in New York soon. Anita Tongre has already opened a store in New York. I think now is the time where it's being heard. Most of the red carpet looks that I had seen this time at the Oscars or something was by an Indian designer called Gaurav Gupta. So I think we are playing with a great balance of modern yet traditional. And for us, as strictly speaking, when our moms used to be wearing cotton, it used to be at home. Today, we are seeing cotton and khadi lehengas being worn at weddings. So I think just taking the entire traditional perspective of what India used to be doing and not being ashamed about it and showing it to the world is exactly why we are being able to represent ourselves globally today.
Okay, so you feel the Indian voice is already being heard. You've seen it at the Oscars, you're seeing it dominate other fashion ramps, etc. You're saying we've already got a reasonably pronounced presence, and upwards is the only way forward.
Yeah, it's only the start.
It's only the start. All right, great. Priya, are you also as optimistic? You think India has arrived or still some way to go?
Well, India has definitely arrived, I can say. And as Ashni mentioned, the looks at the Oscars or, Cannes or, the Met Gala, you see everywhere they are presented so well. But also from a political perspective, I can say, right? We have so many youths, young leaders of Indian origin who are currently, at very significant positions in the current administration. Secondly, from a trade perspective, I mean, from the tech perspective, you can see most of the CEOs that lead the Fortune 500 companies in the US are of Indian origin. And you take it even from the education sector, the green education movement that started from India is gaining so much momentum in the United States. And I speak only for the United States because I live here. So from that, you can say there is so much to learn from India, the culture and the values that we present. It's so holistic, and the Western world or other countries, they very closely look at it, and this is very important. And from a trade perspective, there are so many organizations here that specifically focus on India, and they bring the perspectives to the global audience here. The diaspora is working so much to bring the Indian voices, be it from the rural areas, the urban settings, you mentioned, or the mix of both. So from every angle, there is a huge efforts that are made to just elevate those voices, because we are already there. Now it's just the point that we elevate to the level and that we get seat at every table.
Okay. So, I mean, I like your optimism, but, for almost now 15 years, I used to be in the hedge fund space, and India was clubbed with Brazil, Russia, and China into the BRIC countries, right? And they said, okay, this is the emerging market group. And I remember sitting in my Harvard classroom and saying, when will we emerge? It's still always emerging. And I don't know if we have completely emerged. Maybe it's because just I see the amount of immense potential in India, and I feel still at a global scale, we still lack somewhere, but that's a entirely different panel that we will ask IMC to organize for us.
I was just going to add that,
Yeah,
there is a lot to be discussed, but, that is a separate thing that can be done. I think from this perspective, we should carry on. But there is a lot.
Sure.
You have brought a very, very important point.
Sure thing. All right. I've been given a directive to wrap up, so I'll ask the one last question. Your last words for our young audience, if you had to leave them with one piece of advice, either from your personal journey or your learnings, your failure, optimism, whatever you would like. Just your last words for our panel here.
From my point of view, I think be prepared. Be prepared for change. We're going to see unprecedented transformation in every sector. And I think your preparedness will help you take better decisions. So think from a risk perspective, get risk intelligent in whatever you do. Grass is always greener on the other side, but stick by your passion, your commitment to drive change, and don't get influenced by what other people are doing. Even if it's, a 9-to-5 job or starting a new venture, don't do a business just to sell. Do a business if you're passionate about it. Take up a job if you're passionate about it. And if you're prepared, then trust me, nothing can shake you.
Okay, so passion and preparedness. Okay, thanks. Thanks, Ashni, over to you.
I think for the youth, being young and having youth by your side is the biggest advantage by itself. Make use of it. I think choosing a profession that can truly make you happy, and as much as a cliche as it sounds, I truly believe in this. With technology today, literally every profession is scalable, so there's going to be enough time to make money if you truly focus on honing your skills first. I would also like to add another very important thing about being self-reliant, but along with a huge compassion in doing whatever you do, because growth is not an us word. Growth is an us word. It's not an I word. And I think whatever you do for your growth, you do need to make sure that you pull up other people alongside with you to ensure that growth is together.
I love that. Beautifully framed, Ashni. Compassion, and bring compassion to whatever you're doing and pull other people up in your journey. Beautifully framed. Thank you.
I would say that, be hungry to innovate. That's extremely important. Be hungry to do the next thing, take that deep dive into it, just try it out. And, that will create a positive impact. And that will also create pathway for progress that will build a very, very prosperous nation.
Okay, thank you. I think, Priya, you summed it up for all of us. We'll end in the words of Steve Jobs. Stay hungry, stay foolish, and good luck to all of you. Thank you, Harsh, Ashni, and Priya, for those fantastic insights. And I hope our paths cross in person next time, and would love to touch upon a lot of the things you guys raised, but with the paucity of time, I think you've managed to cover a range of thoughts and ideas, and truly appreciate your presence. Of course, Team IMC, thank you for your coordination, organization, and patience in getting this panel organized. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's give them a huge round of applause. I know we all are sitting wherever we are, but an applause can always help to encourage each other. So, well, with this, it is time for us to call upon 6 students now for the narration on their vision towards the envisioning India's future global perspective. Now, students, remember, you've got 2 minutes each. And if you cross 2 minutes, you will find me intervening. So time is of the biggest asset for you. So with this, let's go ahead and first up call upon Mr. Lavish Sutting from the Qatar University, Dubai, UAE, joining us. So Lavish, your 2 minutes starts now.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lavish, and I'm studying at the Qatar University, Dubai. It's my pleasure to speak here at the Youth Conclave organized by the IMC. Youth are the future of India. According to a World Population Review, Indian youth, which lies in the age group of 15 to 29, contributes about 26.3% of the total population of the country. India has the world's largest youth population in 2014. During our new beginnings as a nation, we had international systems supporting us for evolution. Due to various issues from domestic inequality and identities, these international systems fail to keep up with the values, meaning the power of creating and amending policies are in hands of us. It is the time that we have to carefully devise our own trajectory of focusing on providing resources for the country's youth for a better tomorrow, not only for accelerating our own growth, but could also attract communities all around the world. As we already know, the youth is expecting a lot. What could be done should be the real question that we should be thinking about right now. I just want to talk about the resources that are available to me as a student of mechanical engineering. I am exposed to industry events like technical workshops, guest lectures by experts, industry visits. All of these were happening on a weekly basis before the pandemic hit us. Even then, that didn't stop us. We were going on these same platforms on online environments. During the pandemic, I did about 2 internships. All these experiences provided me with significant information of the industry, professional growth, and relevance to the real world. If our country is able to encourage youth by providing more relevant resources, for example, funding a research, helping a startup grow, mandating private and government-related organizations to provide growth opportunities for freshers and students like internships, trainings, etc., India's new blueprint could be so much more to the world right now. Just imagine if every person of the country, and most importantly, every youth of the country has access to all these resources. The investments could turn into breakthroughs, world-renowned organizations, and powerhouse of innovations. Thank you.
Thank you, Lavish. Well, very much in time, and thank you so much for your thoughts. 1 minute and 50 seconds. Very well done on that. But ladies and gentlemen, now I'd like to call upon Ritesh from Deakin University, Australia, joining us. Ritesh, your 2 minutes start now.
A very good evening to everyone. I believe these are very exciting times for India as a country, and as the youth of this nation, I feel extremely proud, not just to be involved, but to contribute to building a new India as well. The first thought that comes to my mind when I hear the word future is sustainability. And I think sustainability not only affects me as a young person, but is something that all of us, anyone whose faith is bound to this planet can come to appreciate. A common belief in general is that there are 2 types of worlds. There's the developing and the developed. I don't think this is a very helpful characterization of India's place in the world to come, because the implicit assumption that they're making is that the West is already developed, they have all the good ideas, and India and other countries should just copy those and use that to power growth and reach the frontier. I actually believe really nowhere on this planet is truly developed. There are a lot of areas where solutions we currently have are just not sustainable. I think we need to start thinking differently about what India's role in the world is going to be. I strongly believe the innovations that are going to be the most important are just as likely to come from India as they are from the US or somewhere in Europe. And that's the mindset I think we should be having in India when thinking about and approaching some of these problems. Our goal shouldn't be just to try and catch up, but it should be to jump ahead. So how can we leapfrog into the future and become a superpower? I believe the key is that we need to be focusing on fundamental science innovation, and this is where the youth have a big role to play. According to me, a lot of new ideas are not going to come from the consensus thinker. I say this because young people have a huge advantage in terms of thinking about the future, because they have the ability through naivety or lack of experience to think from first principles, not to think of how things have been, but how things can be. And I believe they're the ideal candidates for some of these leapfrogging innovations. Today, India is one of the youngest nations in the world, with more than 50% of its total population below the age of 25. But the youth in India needs support in terms of good health, education, as well as opportunities to transform the future. From enabling scientists to accurately predict.
Apologies, 2 minutes are up.
Right,
apologies on that.
I just think that this will lead to become a superpower in the future. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ritesh, on that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, now with this, it is time for me to call upon our next student, Ms. Jagrati Srivastav, Global Indian International School, Tokyo, Japan, joining us. Jagrati, your 2 minutes start now.
Greetings of the day, everybody. From 1991 to 2019, the purchasing power parity had a sharp increase by 776%. No doubt, it is possible to see India as the second strongest economy after China replacing the US by 2050. However, as per the World Population Review, the most powerful countries in 2021 were the United States, followed by China, Russia, Germany, and the United Kingdom, while India held the 13th position. As per an article by the Hindustan Times on September 1st, 2021, India ranks 177th in the Environmental Index, 139 in the Happiness Index, 131 in the Human Development Index 2020, and thus there is a lot of scope for improvement. Our population growth since the 1960s has been a solid 209%, and with disadvantages like lower per capita income, there is one very big advantage: a very strong youth labor force for the future. It is sad that India is home to both the 4th richest person in the world and the poorest of the poor people. Therefore, to make the population of India more of an asset than a liability, we need to have a good education system and health provisions in every corner of the country. Along with the human capital formation, India needs to work on its infrastructure. While India is a large producer of raw materials, manufacturing accounts for only 16% of the country's GDP. It represents only 2% of the world's manufacturing output, a tenth of what its neighbor, China, contributes. India at present is working on this under the Make in India agenda, and the scope of more jobs leading to better living conditions are a positive sign for its growth. While the growing economy is at $3 trillion at present, and the strong and India at present is a strong soft power, the scope of becoming a superpower persists. Thank you.
Thank you. Very well summed it up in such less time. I'd really like to appreciate you on the same and great thoughts. Well, with this, I'd now like to call upon, and please excuse my pronunciation if I'm not right with your name. It's Miss Latha Zawli from the Mizoram University. Is that right? If you'd like to correct me, please go ahead.
It's Latha Zawli.
Latha Zawli.
Yeah,
okay.
Latha Zawli.
Over to you. Your 2 minutes start now.
It is a fact that what has been done in the present defines its own future. Now the question is, what is the current condition of India and where is India headed to? And let me share you my theory. This is Latha Zawli representing Mizoram University from Mizoram, the northeast part of India. It has been mentioned that India held the 6th rank in the global economy. This evidently shows how advanced and powerful our Bharat is. Even in terms of digitalization, India is never at the back of the row. The Digital India campaign launched back in 2015 is one among many which shows that India utilizes the modern technological advancement in the most resourceful and innovative way. India is strong and smart. However, in order to make more progress, she must focus on these 3 important pillars. First, the Indian government. The government is the parent of the nation. For the past years till today, the government has been contributing numerous amounts of schemes, campaigns, support to uplift every aspect like the rural sections, education, youth empowerment, entrepreneurship and business, commerce and industry, and yes, even sustainable development and healthcare. The government has continued to contribute while maintaining its global relations at its best. Second, the public. It is the duty of the public to play its role at its utmost interest, to voice out concerns and ideas in the most innovative and creative way possible while working with dignity. And third, the youth. Yes, the youth. The younger generations present here, you and I today, needs to be more mindful and really consider our situation, our motherland, not only in terms of national economy and power, but also in terms of humanity and all-round development while rooting on our tradition. You and I needs to be the driving force, continue to be the driving force for the future. And this event today is a great example for that. Also, technological advancement has become a necessity. This is a great chance for India to use her diverse demographic nature in order to build a more stronger and more reliable economy for the future. And at the end of the day, what really matters in order to make any transformation possible is you and I. And what I want to say is stay on your game and keep going for your dreams because the world needs that special gift that only you have. Thank you so much.
Thank you and well done on that. Well, with this, I'd now like to call upon Ms. Anmol Sharma, Premier Institute, Imc Continuum School, Nepal, joining us. Anmol?
Yes. Good afternoon to honorable members, delegates, and entrepreneurs sitting here today. This is me, Anmol Sharma, representing Premier International IB Continuum School in Nepal. I'm currently studying in grade 11 for the IB Diploma program. And today on this prestigious occasion of the 75th year of independence in India, I'm here to highlight the topic of envisioning India's future and on a global perspective. To transcend India to this new era of transformation, our global vision must ensure plurality and collective prosperity. Some of the contributions required for building this new India and also to be focused for India to become a superpower are the highest civilizational ideals like sustainable prosperity, reasonable freedom, moral upliftment, peace, mutual respect, and of course, Swarajya. India holds a great potential to become a superpower with the help of rapid digitalization. As we have already seen, it is known to be one of the countries with the cheapest data availability. And also, if I had to mention one thing personally that I would like to ideate for India is promoting recycling. The problem I have seen is most people don't understand the importance of 2 different garbage bins. The fact that this can make such a huge difference in the environment by decreasing that waste and can also be good for India's future, making it less polluted. I know it can sound like one of the most basic things you've ever heard of, but to be honest, it can make one of the biggest differences in the environment by decreasing waste. It can bring a drastic and amazing change in the weather, causing the pollution to decrease because most of the waste items which are not biodegradable are being burned. If us as youths, we start small campaigns to take such small steps to make people understand the need of having 2 different garbage bins so the biodegradable waste can be separated and the non-biodegradable can be recycled and reused, this one of the smallest tasks we can take in our hands to make India better for the future generations. And it can also play a huge part in helping the environment. Now, the conclusion is that to envision India's tomorrow, we must recapture the vision of India that ignited our souls, reawakened a civilization, and inspired us to realize our destiny as an independent nation. India's brutal suffering under the colonial brood gave its leaders a rare empathy and concern for all the oppressed people of the world. Our freedom struggle and had the audacity and the imagination to dream not only of an India we wish to bring in life, its vision embraced all humanity. Thank you so much. Namaste.
Thank you, Anmol, for that. Well, with this, I'd now like to call upon Sia Arora, Global Indian International School, Singapore, joining us. Sia, your time starts now.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm extremely delighted to be here today and speak about the global perspective of India's education. So I would like to summarize my speech in 3 points about how our nation, India, could become a superpower. The first thing that I see is a permanent seat at the United Nations Security Council, which would come with tremendous strategic advantages at the global and regional level, at the Southeast Asian level as well. So how India can achieve that? So there needs to be a necessitated strategic lobbying and strengthening diplomatic ties in regional blocs, first of all, such as the ASEAN, European Union, and the Arab League, to secure ourselves a seat. Now, India is the world's largest democracy and the world's second most populous country. And just by virtue of these 2 credentials, disregarding everything else, which we do have, but just by virtue of these 2 credentials, we hold great bargaining power at the United Nations right now. And the United States and France have publicly supported our bid right now in April 2022 session of the UNSC for a permanent seat. So India must focus right now to get a strategic advantage by lobbying to secure our seats. This, above all else, will put India at the helm of international relations and politics. Now, the second thing that I want to talk about is the reforms in the education system, particularly the structure of the entrance examinations like the JEE, the NEET, the CUET, which have aided and abetted the $16 billion coaching industry in India. These pose a serious hindrance to the implementation of the NEP 2020 that the government recently came up with, as these exams promote rote learning and stifle creativity in the future leaders of the country. Now, as my previous speaker just spoke, education is the way forward, whether it be developing India, a global perspective, a superpower. Everything is driven forward by the education, so we must focus on the youth of the country. However, much to my dismay, when I started researching about the education system and transportation networks in the country for this speech, I figured out that the ideas I had were almost always existed in terms of regulations and rules. I was truly perplexed, if these laws already existed in terms of rules, why had I never seen them enforced on the ground? And that is when I truly realized that the greatest disease plaguing the nation today is corruption and bribery. We may talk of policies to implement, ideas to implement what can be done, but unless we disregard this menace of corruption and bribery from our country, it will not be implemented. So in a 2020 survey titled Global Corruption Barometer for Asia, India topped the list.
I'm so sorry,
Right.
your 2 minutes, 2 minutes are up. I'm apologetic on that. We couldn't hear your final say on the same, but ladies and gentlemen, we have to be just to all the students who participated and keep it to 2 minutes per student. So well, with this, ladies and gentlemen, we'd really like to thank all the students who proposed their thoughts, and let's applaud them for all their efforts they've brought in to this forum today and those young ideas and from the young minds coming up. Well, ladies and gentlemen, with this, it is time for us to move ahead to our closing ceremony now. In this closing ceremony, of course, we're going to have a special address, and in this special address I'd now like to call upon Mr. Ajit Mangalurkar, Director General, IMC Chamber of Commerce and Industry, to please join us for the closing ceremony and start. Over to you, Mr. Mangalurkar.
Thank you, Bhavna. Good evening, everyone. Let me start by welcoming the youth power of our country. What a two-day event we've had. Fantastic. Since yesterday, we have been part of several productive sessions covering a host of topics that are not only relevant, but also critical for India. This year, our nation is celebrating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, and the conclave is dedicated to the commemoration of the 75 years of India's independence. As we are now stepping into the glorious Amrit Kal, the conclave has witnessed young minds unveil their ideas for future of India. Students from colleges and universities across the country, as well as overseas, were an integral part of this program. Startups and young professionals from diverse fields also voiced their aspirations, thoughts, and ideas of a new, better, and brighter future for India. It is like a breath of fresh air. The discussions have brought out many ideas, suggestions, and recommendations that demonstrates the creative and aspirational side of our young minds. Our youth are our future. In the year ahead, our youth are going to propel this nation higher in economic growth and social development. They have the potential to be creative disruptors of the status quo, propel the nation higher and higher. The youth is a driving force to India's glory on world stage. It is dynamic in nature, which needs to be tapped and harnessed intelligently for the development of society as a whole. IMC Chamber of Commerce and Industry is one of the oldest chambers of commerce in our country, having been established in 1907. Yet, IMC has always been progressive, forward-looking, and adapting with time to the new industry trends. The chamber has always believed in the youth of our country and has nurtured young talent. Young entrepreneurs, young professionals, and young corporate executives are part of our managing committee and various expert committees as well. We at IMC shall continue to foster, promote, and nurture young talent. Each one of you are all winners. I wish you all a very bright and prosperous future ahead. Without much ado, before we announce the winners, we are truly honored to have a special address by Dr. Sivan, Vikram Sarabhai, Distinguished Professor and former Secretary, Department of Space, and former Chairman, Space Commission, also known as the Rocket Man of India, is a renowned scientist known for his contribution in development and operationalization of ISRO's launch vehicle fleet to make India self-reliant in assured access to space. Dr. Sivan has received numerous academic and professional awards at national and international levels during his career. It is truly an honor to have Dr. Sivan address us all today. Over to you, Dr. Sivan.
Greetings to all of you. I am extremely happy to address annual Youth Conclave organized by IMC's Youth Leaders Forum. I must thank Sri Ajit Mangalurkar for inviting me and giving me this opportunity. The theme of the event, Ideating India at 100, Voice of Youth, is most apt theme at the present time. As we are aware, Government of India has initiated excellent schemes which are really the stepping stones. Our Honorable Prime Minister's far-sighted vision for the fast national development. To take these initiatives as the starting point and propel India to the global leadership, the responsibilities lies with youth. India has huge human resources and it is going to be increased substantially compared to other nations in the near future. If we harness these rich human resources, especially the youth, I am sure we can achieve the Honorable PM's vision very easily. I am not going to talk about the government schemes, which all of you are aware, or the corresponding experts will explain them better than me. Rather, I just wanted to convey my opinions to youth, how to handle these and what strategy they may adapt. First and foremost thing is, many youths after their graduation will look for job. This is the trend and which has to be changed. Instead of job seekers, they have to build themselves as job creators. Each and every one of the youth should aspire to become entrepreneurs. For this purpose, government has created excellent ecosystem such as startups, incubation centers, etc. Once you decide on this, you may have to learn many things. To learn, you should learn to unlearn things. Technology is growing very fast. You need to remove the obsolete and unwanted things from your head and learn new technologies. Societal requirements and national developmental needs are not something new. They are the same old stuff. In that case, you can ask what to do. Here only your importance comes to the picture. You have to innovate, disruptive, and all. Innovation only will keep you identified. So be strong in that. To innovate, definitely you have to take risk. Innovation cannot be done without taking risk. Taking risk comes with failures. You have to conquer the failures. You need not be afraid about the failures. Failure is one way of learning. If you have not failed, it is definite that you have not tried something new. If you are not taking small risk and fear of failure, you are really taking big risk of not achieving great things in life. Okay, now you are ready, but how to proceed? You know your capabilities. You decide whatever work feasible by you. But do not take convenient one. Take one with a set target which may be challenging. You should not worry about the past and do not bother about the future. Work in the present and excel in that. That may take you to a level which may not be the one you look for. From that starting point, again repeat what I said. This procedure will take you to a top position by which you can contribute to the nation. All the best for all of you for the great future. Thank you. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
Thank you so much, Dr. S. Sivan, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. K. Sivan, what an incredible address that was. The special address definitely added a great tone to the closing ceremony, and the thoughts you spoke are going to go a long way ahead. Thank you for inspiring all of us today with that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as Mr. Mangalkar rightly said, that it is going to be time in the closing ceremony wherein we're going to be appreciating and providing the best student speakers. Felicitations happening now. And of course, we'd also like to extend a big thank you to all the institute partners for their participations. As he rightly said that all of you are winners, but of course we have to choose the best student speakers. First up, for the day one, the best student speakers announcements, I'd now like to invite Mr. Sanjay Mehta, Deputy Director General, IMC Chamber of Commerce and Industry, to please join us. Mr. Mehta, over to you to take forth with the announcements. Mr. Mehta, we'd request you to please unmute.
Yeah, I was last 2 days I was on mute, so I forgot. Thank you, Bhavna, and good evening to all. And after the 2 days of very interesting discussions by experts about where they want to see India when India is at 100, a very interesting discussion on areas like infrastructure, startup ecosystem, self-reliance India, digital India, green initiatives, and the views from the countries around the world about envisioning India's future. Very interesting discussion, but followed by students from various institutions across India and across many countries around the world talking about the same subject. And as it was put before me that we have to name a best student now, although each one of you gave a very good inputs. And according to the adjudicator, who told us that all the students who took part in each session, debate had interesting presentation to make. But since it is a competition, they had to judge a winner. And they have, and here they are for the first day. For the first session first, Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, beginning of Gati Shakti. The best student speaker is Mr. Mohammad Yasin from SP Jain Institute of Management and Research, Mumbai, Maharashtra. Congratulations, Mohammad. For the session 2, the Indian startup Sunicon to Unicorn. The best student speaker adjudged is Mr. Uzair Patel from Parul University, Vadodara, Gujarat. Congratulations, Uzair. And for session 3, Atmanirbhar Bharat, Vocal for Local, Mr. Prathamesh Rege from SP Mandal Wellinkar Institute of Management, Development and Research, V School, Mumbai, Maharashtra. Congratulations, Prathamesh. I would like to add here that all the students who participate and gave their inputs will go in the white paper that we are going to produce, and it will go to the Honorable Prime Minister of India, because he has last year also said that he would like to see what young mind has said about where India should be. So congratulations to all of you. Well done. Thank you very much.
Well, congratulating all the students, and thank you so much, Mr. Mehta, for joining us on felicitating the day 1 students on that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, day 2 has been incredible as well. It is time for me to now call upon the Deputy Director General, IMC Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Ms. Sheetal Kalo, to please join us. Sheetal, over to you.
Thank you. A very good evening to each and every one of you. The energy, the enthusiasm and passion with which our young participants have spoken over these 2 days has truly captivated me. It is wonderful to witness the vibrant energy and zest with which more than 40 young and dynamic participants from all over India and overseas have addressed their views and aspirations on ideating India at 100. I want to congratulate each and every one of you. I'm reminded more than ever how absolutely essential and powerful youth vision is to energize the world where they believe in creating and recreating a space for futureful development. It means turning problems into opportunities and solutions and being the driving force of society. As Jose Rizal said, youth is the hope of our future. Our government has taken an amazing initiatives by introducing many schemes, be it the Gati Shakti Master Plan for multimodal connectivity to various economic zones, or the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana, which is the flagship outcome-based skill training scheme of the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, amongst many others that we have discussed today. I'm sure with the noble efforts of the government, along with the citizens, we are looking ahead for a bright and Atmanirbhar Bharat. I want to sincerely thank the principals and coordinators of all the education institutes from India and overseas who have associated with us for this youth conclave. And without much ado, I'd like to announce the winners for day 2, which is today. The winner for session 4, Digital India at 100, Inclusive Growth, is Mr. Shrurid Bhantia, Indian Institute of Technology, IIT Gandhinagar, Gujarat. Thank you. Session 5, the winner for Green Initiative, Climate Smart India, is Mr. Muhammad Yusuf Mustafa, Symbiosis School of Management. Congratulations. And lastly, the session 6, that is Envisaging India's Future, a Global Perspective, is Ms. Anmol Sharma, Premier International IB Continuum School, Nepal. Congratulations to all the winners. Last, but certainly not the least, my dear participants, a big thank you to all of you. I would like to reinstate that each one of you are winners. And in order to celebrate and acknowledge every student's effort, we now like to present certificates of appreciation and participation to all the students who have graced this magnanimous conclave.
So, well, what a great day this has turned out to be, ladies and gentlemen. And firstly, congratulations to all of you. As Sheetal rightly said, that We're here to felicitate, the best of the speakers, but all of you have put in such incredible efforts in the way she said, dear participants, and that's what, we've been all feeling for all the students, that the kind of efforts you've done, all of you are winners. Well, ladies and gentlemen, on this note, it is time for an official vote of thanks, and it is my honor to now call upon Ms. Vidhi Doshi, who is the chairperson IMC YLF, to please propose the vote of thanks. Over to you, Vidhi.
Thank you so much. As chairperson of IMC YLF, it is my privilege to present a vote of thanks. We are grateful to the respected dignitaries and policymakers who took out their precious time and inspired us. We at IMC YLF have been extremely fortunate to have their support at the Youth Conclave. Dr. Deepika Sardavaji, Gujarat State President, BJP Mahila Morcha, Dr. Rajendra Kumarji, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Electronics and IT, and Dr. K. Sivan, Vikram Sarabhai, Distinguished Professor, Department of Space, former Secretary, Department of Space, former Chairman, ISRO. I would like to thank all the Indian and global entrepreneurs who spoke at the IMC YLF Youth Conclave and who have taken out their valuable time to join us today. It was an absolute privilege to have them speak at the Youth Conclave and inspire all the students and young entrepreneurs. Thank you, Ms. Binita Dalal, Mr. Darshan Hiranandani, Mr. Xerxes Master, Ms. Astha Grover, Mr. Sanjay Mehta, Mr. Yash Chandan, Mr. Nikunj Parashar, Ms. Suhani Mohan, Mr. Neel Lalka, Mr. Akshay Chaturvedi, Ms. Priya Prakash, Mr. Atit Sangvi, Mr. Angad Daryani, Ms. Rushida Majid, Ms. Amrita Chaudhary, Ms. Ashni Shah, Ms. Priya Samant, Mr. Harsha, and Ms. Vibha Kagzi. All of them are icons and role models for an entire generation of entrepreneurs and students. We are grateful for their insights, guidance, vision, and advice. It was inspiring and informative to discuss over the last 2 days various topics like Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, beginning of Gati Shakti, the Indian startups, Sunicorn to Unicorn, Atmanirbhar Bharat, Vocal for Local, Digital India @100, Inclusive Growth, Green Initiatives, Climate Smart India, Envisioning India's Future, a Global Perspective. We would like to thank and convey our gratitude to Dr. Sai Kaustav Dasgupta for his extremely motivating and inspiring address for all our students. We wish to express our profound thanks to the Maharashtra State Innovation Society for supporting this event. We would like to thank all the students across more than 50 plus prestigious colleges from various parts of the country who participated in the IMC YLF Youth Conclave. We would like to thank our college partners from all across the country, as well as international colleges who partnered with us from Australia, Dubai, Tokyo, Singapore, and Nepal. We want to take this opportunity to convey our gratitude and thank you to our gold sponsor, Future Generali India Insurance Company Limited, and also our associate sponsors, Ebullient Packaging Private Limited, OC Specialities Private Limited, and Bhavya Container and Estate Company. Without their gracious support, it would not have been possible to hold this event. I would also like to thank Archer for this amazing digital platform, and also Ms. Bhavna Bhatia for being the anchor. I would like to conclude by thanking with our deepest gratitude, Mr. Ruzer Khorakiwala, President, IMC Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Thank you, Mr. Khorakiwala, for all your constant support and guidance, without which this event would not be possible. I would also like to thank Mr. Anand Singhania, President-elect IMC, Mr. Ajit Mangrulkar, Director General IMC, Mr. Sanjay Mehtaji, Deputy Director General IMC, Ms. Sheetal Kalro, Deputy Director General IMC, Mr. Shardul Shah, my co-chair for the IMC Young Leaders Forum, Ms. Anita Nayak, Officer in charge for IMC Young Leaders Forum. Also like to thank Selby, Meryl, Suzanne, Jayashree, Nitin, our IT team, and the entire team at IMC. India's youth is our most valuable, amazing, talented, and hardworking asset. It is the youth of our country which will enable us to achieve the aspirations we have for our beloved nation. This is just the trailer. The world has started looking at India, our India, which has all the ingredients to not only support, but lead the next level of global growth. Thank you all once again for attending the Youth Conclave and making it a grand success. And we hope to have empowered the youth and their entrepreneurial ambition. Thank you once again. Jai Hind.
Well, thank you so much. Well, thank you so much, Vidhi, on that wonderful vote of thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, as Vidhi rightly said, we hope we could empower your entrepreneurial spirits. And on this note, we'd like to officially conclude the Youth Conclave 2022. Well, what an immense 2 days this has been, and thank you all for all your support. We encourage all the students and everyone who has participated on this forum to kindly tweet. The hashtag was very simple. It is hashtag IMC YLF Youth Conclave 2022. Well, for now, it is me, Bhavna Bhatia, signing off on behalf of these wonderful institutes. Thank you once again for joining us.
Oh, I'm a good dog, I'm a good dog, I'm a good dog. Yes, I'm a good dog, I'm a good dog, I'm a good dog. I don't want to hear all of your worries about the cat. I'm pretty sure that he always used to look like that. Just because the hors d'oeuvres have disappeared and I'm a little fat doesn't mean I do it. I'm a good dog, I'm a good dog, I'm a real,
Good dogs can make bad decisions. Protect them with FG Dog Health Cover, a comprehensive health insurance plan that covers surgery and hospitalization, emergency pet minding, vet visits, and more.